This is Kanzenshuu, the podcast, episode 418 for the week of January 1st, 2017. Hello, welcome to another year here at Kanzenshuu, the podcast, an extension of the all-encompassing Dragon Ball fan site, Kanzenshuu. We cover anything and everything Dragon Ball in hopes of enlightening and a little bit of entertaining. Welcome to 2017. It is a new year, a new January. That means it's another anniversary. If you track things all the way back from myself, by the way, I'm Mike, Vegito EX, going all the way back to January 1998. That's when I launched Vegito EX's Ultimate DBZ Links page on my 2 megs of AOL space. They quickly transitioned to Vegito EX's homepage and then Kanzenshuu EX, and of course here we are at Kanzenshuu. That means another year, 19 years of covering Dragon Ball online. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here with us for yet another year. We're into my 19th year. We're well into our 11th year of the podcast. And a little bit later this year, we'll be marking the 5th anniversary of our fusion dance on April 1st. 5 years of Kanzenshuu. It's a year full of exciting anniversaries. Love it. So happy to have you along for the ride. But enough of that. What is on tap for this year episode of our podcast? Yeah, it's a fun anniversary, but it's just another episode. Or is it? Because if you haven't already seen by looking at the runtime of this episode, it's a long ass episode. We have a beast for you here. This is our review of the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super. Future Trunks arc, Goku Black arc, whatever you want to call it. The way I like to describe it is I don't enjoy, and I don't in some ways, I think it's very responsible to do individual episode reviews of Dragon Ball. It's meant to be consumed on a weekly basis, not necessarily analyzed on a weekly basis. So what we like to do in conjunction with our good buddy Chris Niosi, you may know him as Kerbifer, he does a series of videos on his YouTube channel that he calls Kerblog. It's basically a podcast that he just does on YouTube. We like to collaborate together and do full arc reviews of Dragon Ball Super. We have done so for the Battle of Gods retelling arc, we have done so for the Resurrection F retelling arc, and we have done so with the Universe 6 vs. 7, the Champa arc. We are back again with our review of the Future Trunks arc. On deck this episode is that review. You will hear myself, you will hear Chris, you will hear Kaiser Neko, Scott from Team 4-Star, and appropriately enough, you will hear Meri. It is the 4 of us tackling this arc of the series, well over 2 hours. We give you our thoughts on the series. We dive into a little bit of your thoughts on the series. It's a hell of an episode. I don't want to delay it any further because what the hell have I been talking about for about 4 minutes here? So that's what's on deck this episode. I will catch up with you on the flip side to talk about what's going on with Kanzenshuu over the next couple weeks and into 2017. And that's it. So enjoy the review. Forget the news. This is what's going on. You've been waiting for it. It's our full arc review, the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super. Let's go.
Shut up and listen. There was a new arc in DB Super. Turn your volume up, cause we're gonna do a brand new Kerblog. So I suppose we got shining hearts. Here we go! Time traveling was heavily involved. Lots of different villains with problems to be solved. Malevolent gods seeking world domination. Yes, you can tell. There's lots to be discussed now. So let's get on with the show. Ooh. Hey, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there.
Wow, how long have you been working on that one?
This is phenomenal.
Any further brain cells, way too many months I've been saving that. Hey, welcome one and all to the very first Kerblog of the year 2017. It's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for just the right time to finally record this heavily awaited topic. But today is the day, at last. We're going to be talking about the newest major arc in Dragon Ball Super that just finished up in Japan, which is officially being called the Future Trunks arc, but what I'm, for the purposes of this video, like a scrub, calling the Goku Black saga. For those of you who, for whatever discernible reason, might be new to this, if you might have come from a different source from one of the 3 other guests joining me this time, let's begin anew, as it is a new year. My name is Chris Niosi. You might possibly also know me better as Kerbifer. I'm an animator, creator, writer, voice actor, general doer of way too many things, and I have been a Dragon Ball fan for well over half my lifetime. And I've been doing these recap Dragon Ball Super Kerblogs now for, I think, over a year since the show started, with several of the folks involved. Of which I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves this time. So please, gentlemen and lady.
Kerb, I don't know how you do that opening and then you just expect us to have this conversation.
Expect me to have any respect for you whatsoever.
Okay, go.
No,
hi there, I'm Scott Frericks, or Kaiser Neko. I actually work with Team 4-Star on Dragon Ball Z Abridged. We have a bunch of other stuff too, but for the sake of this conversation, we're just going to keep it to DBZA.
Oh, my next. I'm paying attention.
Maybe.
You is. Go.
I am Mike. I go by Vegito EX, but I prefer just Mike because my name is Mike. I am one of the 4 guys that runs the website Kanzenshuu, KANZENSHUU.com. We are that Dragon Ball fan site. As of the time that this episode is coming out, technically, if you go all the way back to the very beginning, I am in year 19 of running my website.
Wow. My God.
Crazy.
Yes.
I've said this on your show before, but I still vividly remember in like middle school going to when it was like hosted on the Rutgers server.
Oh God, you were in middle school and I was in college. Stop.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh wait, but we have a new addition. We've of course had Mike and Scott on these before, but we have a new, very appropriate guest for this one, considering a certain character involved. So please introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Meri, and I run the website templeotrunks.com. I started that site in 1998 and ran it consistently through about the early 2000s, at which point I took a break. And this arc is what pulled me back into digital fandom. I've always been around, casually on the side. I was kind of a guest podcaster on Mike's show over the years by virtue of being married to him and living there and having access to the basement where all the cool equipment lives. But it was a few months ago when I decided, okay, this is big. Super's a thing. Trunks is back. I need to be in this. Kind of took it on the lazy side of things and brought back my website activity in the form of just social media. And it's been great being back online.
And we are happy to have your hilarious Trunks-related jokes in our lives once again. And it may or may not involving action figures of some kind, but
Bubba Trunks is watching us.
I know. He's over my shoulder. I wish we had a photo of this right now.
I can make
He's
that
over
happen.
my shoulder, and you know what? I'm going to give him some of this beer. Bubba Trunks wants beer.
Well, first of all, guys, thank you very much for taking the time to do this. We're recording this currently in the middle of December still, in the middle of Poke-Sember for me and DB-Sember for Scott, and just general a billion things.
It's always Dragon Ball time for me.
Yeah, pretty much. But of course, we wanted to save this for January after the holiday craziness was all over. But actually, one real quick, very important thing that I do want to mention before we get into the actual discussion. A massive change, several massive changes have happened since we did the Universe 6 tournament arc discussion, which was quite a while ago now. Because this arc was, I believe, 20 episodes in total, the Future Trunks, Goku Black stuff. But in that time, the series is now, very importantly, I should put emphasis on this to anybody who has not joined us in, the 21st century, for Christ's sake. The show is legally available for streaming, and no, we are not sponsored, on Crunchyroll, but please, if you have not already been watching the show legally on Crunchyroll, please do the world, the fandom, the show a favor and do that. The show is also, as of I think the week that we'll be putting this up, going to be airing in English on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network on Saturday nights. So keep an eye out for that if you also are interested in checking out the long-awaited English dub of the show as well.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that not just Crunchyroll, but especially the international folks out there. And Scott, you may have seen, I was going back and forth with your buddy Masako on Twitter the other day. He was talking about, we got fans in Brazil and all these other places. There are so many international fans. There are other services too. Daisuke in particular is serving up the show to so many countries. And I believe down in Australia and New Zealand, there's a service called Anime Lab, not to be confused.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Unfortunate.
That's a
choice of
branding
name there.
nightmare.
They're probably too young to know what they're kind of invoking there. But it's available there as well. So kind of no matter where you live, I don't want to little asterisk there, but you can probably watch it legally.
Yes, because we live in the year 26. Oh no, sorry, live in the year 2017.
Oh my God, it's the
now.
future.
Oh my God, we're always time traveling with these because we're always never recording them on the day that they come out, for Christ's sake. But nonetheless, yes, please do that. I'm not. I swear to God, please. I'm not sponsored. I'm saying this genuinely because I want people to support the official release, as Scott reminds you at the beginning of every episode. That said. Okay, my God, where do we even begin? Mike, take the helm.
Sure. Well, let's begin at the pre-beginning. The first thing I want to do is read to you a quote from original author Akira Toriyama himself. This came in May 2016, so this was ahead of the arc's debut. And this was a comment in conjunction just with all the big announcements about this arc. So forgive me for playing the role of Toriyama here. I'm not worthy, but we don't have anyone better, I guess. Next up in Dragon Ball Super, adult Trunks will be putting in his first appearance in a long time. I put together this story based on a suggestion from the editorial office. Like last time, I write an outline of the entire plot, then the scriptwriters break it up into episodes, expanding on things, changing things around, or adding in new bits as need be. Despite being so strong, Trunks barely escapes from the future with his life. The future was supposed to be at peace, so what in the world could have happened? And what about this foe, too strong even for Trunks to handle? Goku Black? Well, you can probably imagine what he's like, just based off the name. It's the start of a battle that surpasses time and space and drags in the God of Destruction, Kaioshin, and even the Omni King. Many mysteries will be revealed. There's some confusing bits with time changing here and there, but just bear with me. It should definitely turn out to be a fun story. Even I haven't checked the final script yet. Let's enjoy this together. So I think that perfectly sets the stage in a variety of ways coming from Toriyama. Something I want to hone in on there. It was an idea from Toriyama, yes, with a suggestion from the editorial office. So I think that really showcases how Dragon Ball Super is, yes, you have new stuff coming from Toriyama, but Dragon Ball Super is part of the merchandising mega powerhouse that is the Dragon Ball franchise. And they were looking for something that was going to get fans excited again. And that thing clearly was Future Trunks.
And also, I'm sure in tandem with, what if there was another, because we've, practically had 17 different versions of an evil Goku equivalent character. I think that certainly those two things in and of itself were much like, I think, with when Battle of Gods was being shaped, the two kind of I don't want to say selling points, but the Super Saiyan God and God of Destruction, I think, were the two main things that kind of set the stage for that. Right. Similarly with this. I actually think another important thing to hone on to as well that I'm sure we'll get into, probably most of all with what you have to say, Scott. There are some confusing bits with the time travel, but please bear with me. And it's like, yeah, there sure are.
Bear with me. I haven't figured it out yet.
That's part of Toriyama's charm, though, isn't it?
I think
He's like, just bear with me. Bear with me.
Yeah.
But his head is not thinking about those details.
I should also, this really should go without saying, but of course, if you guys haven't gathered, we are absolutely going to be going into spoiler territory. So, bear that in mind as well. So yeah, we went into this. We, of course, had the teaser image of Trunks and waifu Mai as her new design.
Maifu, if you would.
Reflecting.
Maifu. Yep.
And Goku Black with the single Potara earring, which we were like, whoa, what is the deal with this, etc. And even from that perspective, it was really fun to see a lot of people like already trying to think, whoa, what does any of this mean? What is going to happen, etc. And I gotta say, one thing I will definitely give a lot of credit to this arc for is this is Dragon Ball hasn't had me guessing in a very long time since I was watching Z on TV at the time, like when I was still in middle school, going to your site for the first time, and seeing the show unfold in real time and really not having that good of an idea of what's gonna happen next. That in and of itself, regardless of how good the whole thing in the end turned out, I will say that was really exciting. That was, I don't want to even say nostalgic, because maybe in a way it was, but I think just it was a quality that Dragon Ball hasn't been able to have in a long time. just mainly through circumstance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was actually different from the entire beginning of Dragon Ball Super. We had a Battle of Gods and Resurrection F retelling. So other than little things here and there, we knew how that was going to happen. But then even with the Universe 6-7 tournament, Toyotaro's manga adaptation got ahead. So for a while, we kind of knew what the matchups were going to be. This was the point where that fell behind again. And other than spoilers coming out from TV Guide and Animage and that kind of stuff, we had no idea what was going to happen week to week.
Yeah, this arc was full of mysteries, which is not completely unlike Dragon Ball, but in this one, the entire story kind of hinged on who the hell is this guy?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that was amazing. It was really cool to see an arc of Dragon Ball that was all about the heroes not knowing details and the audience being completely at the edge of their seat wondering who is Goku Black? How does Zamasu fit in? Oh, I guess Zamasu is black. Oh, but he's not. Oh, but he is. Which, despite the fact that it got a little convoluted, it was so good to see the story try to get complex, try to have a mystery. Like, this arc tries to do a lot of things, whether or not it succeeds at some and some it fails at others. But no, yeah, I loved that mystery angle.
Yeah, it's almost like that was half the fun, is that anticipation and not really knowing what's up. And it just makes you feel instantly younger. Not, to Chris's earlier point, it wasn't a matter of nostalgia. It's just that almost feeling of, I don't want to say helplessness, but it's like, I don't have the benefit of 15-year-old episode synopses to go off and read from like back in the day. This is, no, we're all in this together. And it kind of led itself to, breeding ground for speculative videos up the wazoo, which I wasn't big into that scene just because I wanted to maintain that level of ignorance, like willfully. Like I didn't want the fan theories to really taint my vision of what's to come next. I wanted, because it's so rare that this happens, it's like, no, I really want to know nothing.
Yeah. And that's tough living in this household.
Yeah.
I mean, for God's sake, we were talking about Masako before, and Mike, you and I have joked about this even to him when we had him on the I think it was the Resurrection F adaptation discussion. We're like, dude, I don't know how the hell you can review one episode of Dragon Ball Super at a time. You'd be racking your brain like 7,000 ways till Sunday with every episode of this arc where it's like, I don't know what's going to happen now.
That's
like,
tough.
My
That's
God.
Tough. Let's set the stage for kind of some of the larger discussion things we're going to have here. I kind of want to avoid as much as possible focusing on the really specific minutia, because I think you can get hung up on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to approach as much broadly as we can. I say all that. I do want to get out of the way. Meri, we did an entire podcast discussion about this already. We have to just, let's address it, move on. The blue hair. What do we want to do about this?
Oh, I'm over it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, me too.
I don't know if it's because I'm just old and jaded or what, but for me, it's a story that's what's important. The color of hair is just cosmetic. And you get used to it after a few episodes, I guess.
For me, honestly, it's one of those things where it's much like when I talk to people about Kingdom Hearts, where it's like there's an in-universe and an out-of-universe, reason for everything that happens in these kind of things. Dragon Ball is rife with things that happen in it forever, even dating back to the old days that don't have anything to do with Toriyama's storytelling. They have everything to do with just, shit that happens outside of the story. And honestly, in this case, I think it was as black and white as maybe one of the designers was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Trunks had blue hair like Bulma? Okay. And then nobody told them, no, he has to have purple hair. And also Kid Trunks is there and he has purple hair still. And whoops. And then they're just like, okay, whatever. This is just how it is now. Shrug. It's
I won't lie. The thing that upsets me the most about it, and which I basically have to get over because I don't have a choice, is that it feels like it was a decision made on the production side and then never explained in the series, and it's just there. So I as much as I get loud about it on Twitter, that's mostly for comedy. At this point, I don't care.
I feel the same way. I'm really convinced now that it was just like every other Toriyama design. He just uses arbitrary colors, and for some reason, no one felt like they could step up this time.
Well, that's the weird thing. They really took it literally, didn't they?
Yeah.
I mean, Trunks had that blue hair for Battle of Gods, but somebody was like, no, that's not how it works.
All right, so let's move on from that. I feel like the big question for this entire arc is going to be going back to that point about it was an idea from the editorial office. Let's bring Trunks back. Was it worth going back to Trunks again? I feel like the real big question, what value is there in torturing Trunks again?
Because it's delicious.
Okay.
Because he can take it.
Yeah.
That's why Trunks is awesome. He can take it.
Yeah.
And he's stronger for it.
Yeah, no, Trunks is one of those characters. Being Trunks is suffering.
Yeah. It's just a state of being for him.
Being future Trunks is suffering. Being kid Trunks is like living large. Oh yeah, I got a girlfriend. Well, then again, I mean, future Trunks has a girlfriend now, so good for him. But, actually, I want to remember something. I apologize, Mike, for the life of me. I cannot remember like what guidebook or interview or whatever this was.
Yeah,
but
see what I can do.
If I am remembering correctly, I feel like there was some interview where Toriyama was talking about when he was eventually going into doing the Boo arc in the manga, and talking about, you have a whole section on your site about the, quote unquote intended endings.
I know. I'm searching as you talk, so keep going.
Okay, you probably know where I'm going with this then. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe there was something mentioned a while ago where Toriyama was like, if I had known that I was going to be continuing past where Cell was defeated, I would have maybe found a way to keep future Trunks around and have him like be in the main timeline and not just have him go off and be done with it or whatever.
Oh, that's not ringing true. I feel like a corresponding kind of statement though was at the end of the manga where everyone's aged up, as we were going back to Battle of Gods and stuff. He was saying that he wanted to bring it before then because this is when everyone was at their peak, but also he drew everyone so old at that point.
Yeah, it's true. No, well, either way, I don't know where it was that I heard that. If that's falsified, then that's on me entirely.
I will fact check and I'll do a little record scratch and we'll figure it out.
If it means anything, I remember it. I remember reading it. Oh, it might have been on the forum, so never mind.
Well, nonetheless, when I did hear that, at least, I did think about that. I did think about always the prospect of even if that was complete bullshit, the idea of, okay, what if future Trunks did stick around for the Boo arc? If anything, for the sole reason of, and they did tackle this in Super, which I was very happy about, the prospect of Kid Trunks and Future Trunks, two completely different characters, really, when it comes down to it. And interacting, and their interactions actually in the show, for as minor as they were actually really cool to me. That was something that I thought was a really, really fun idea to have in there, because especially, I mean, like they would have had to with the whole Back to the Future jumping between different timelines a billion times kind of thing. But in general, having Future Trunks be around for anything past the way that we knew the characters in the androids and Cell, greater massive arc, was always something that was really intriguing to me. And I think that I would say a fair amount of people, and actually, especially with Xenoverse.
That's where I want to go, yeah.
Where Future Trunks was becoming a greater fixture again. I think that a lot of people were interested. And in fact, if anything, Dragon Ball Online and Xenoverse might have even been kind of like putting the feelers out there to see what the interest level might have been.
That's the thing. Like, I don't want to get into Zakanin, but I feel like we already had this expanded universe for Trunks to live in, and then to tell an alternate version of that. I don't want to say it doesn't sit well with me, but I feel like I just have too many conflicting stories kind of going on in my head right now.
Well, that's kind of the nature of, him being a time traveler.
Right.
That's why I cut it some slack.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he can be a time patrol.
You can be whatever you want to be.
You can be whatever you want when you grow up.
That's right.
I think I said this in one of my previous recordings, either with you or on another podcast, but for me, Trunks was always so vastly underutilized.
Yeah,
it's like there's so much you can do with this character, not even just the gimmick of time travel, but just like personality-wise. There's no one else like him in the show. So I was just thrilled at the realm of possibility, and then him meeting himself in the present is just like, oh my God, they went there.
I just feel like we went from underutilized to overutilized so quickly.
Oh, for me, I can't even possibly feel that way. Too much is never enough.
I have opinions on that.
Okay.
Let's hear them.
I'm a huge Trunks fan. It has absolutely nothing to do with me playing him in the show either. I actually tried to not play Trunks in our show. That ended up being a group conversation, and I love Trunks because as a character, he is rife with possibilities. He's also one of the most complicated characters in Dragon Ball, just by, his inception, the future in which he lives in, the fact that there's two of them. There's just so much going on with that character. I love Trunks. they really, God, there are a lot of ways I want to phrase this, but they're really crude. They kind of really gave him just non-stop fan service. And to the point where he learns the Mafuba in like 5 minutes. He knows every one of Vegeta's attacks, which is already like, wait, how did you learn those in the time chamber? Okay, whatever, that's fine, it's cool. But him getting the win, I'm totally 100% okay with. That was amazing. That entire scene is amazing.
You feel like it was all the steps leading up to that was too fan servicey?
He gets a transformation that gets no explanation.
Oh, well, hold on to that, as I want to address that. I think you and I are going to come to blows when we
might.
Well, and actually, it's funny too because you mentioned about the techniques. Like, by the final episode, I was like, man, you were just a fucking melting pot of like the greatest hits of every, super attack in DBZ.
And he never uses his most iconic one.
All your friends are back: the sword, the garlic hoe, the Masenko. The sword again.
That other thing you do.
I'll call out our friend Kieran, Lord Moonstone. I mean, he's gone as far to say like, future Trunks is the biggest Gary Stew since Broly when it comes to Dragon Ball, which I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I do think that that there was a sense of like, because Super has been the Goku and Vegeta show for a very, very, very long time, which, I understand, why they've kind of gone that route. And I think that that's worked pretty okay by and large. I think that with making, I'll say this, I think that with making such a big deal out of having Trunks be back for this arc, giving him a lot of proper attention, I think is good because it makes it feel like, okay, it was worth it and not just, I'm here, but Goku and Vegeta are going to fix everything because they always do,
yeah,
that's
true. That's true. You got to give him that spotlight because otherwise what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
I guess ultimately my point is I love this character, but I would have preferred just maybe 1 or 2 scenes less with him just being inexplicably awesome.
I get it. I want to talk one more character-focused kind of section area before we go to larger story stuff. I feel like the star of this arc truly was Goku Black, from a characterization standpoint, from a voice acting standpoint.
Oh yeah,
I think this might have been one of Nozawa's most iconic, amazing performances in her entire history.
If I might,
but
my entire team, the opinion on Masuko Nozawa and my team goes up and down. Masuko and I love her. Lanny, Taka does not like.
Specifically as adult Goku,
that's my
credit,
specifically as Son Goku.
But carry on.
Everyone loved her as Goku Black.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm sitting back here going, I told you so, like for 20 years. Like, come on.
Vindication.
I'm actually really curious. I don't know if you've talked to Julian or anybody or anyone about the specifics of this. A long time ago, one of I think your earliest episodes, certainly in the first couple years of the podcast, you guys were talking about the different speech styles of various characters, and you were talking about the difference between how Masuko Nozawa performs basically everybody within the Son family tree, as well as Bardock and even Tullus as well from movie 3. Out of curiosity, as she has now played multiple, badass adult characters between, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, Ultimate Gohan, Tullus, Bardock, and now Goku Black, do we know, because I certainly don't know, but I'm curious, are there any distinct differences between the way that she performed this iteration of this character?
Was Goku Black really in terms of, I guess, speaking politely, over politely, or over domineering, like a Frieza style?
No, it was very straight. Everything that made that character's vocal performance was in delivery. It wasn't in language. And I think that's the thing that's resonated with so many people, because you don't need to know the language to pick up on that kind of stuff.
Very nuanced.
Yeah. So, Chris, you were talking kind of very early in our discussion here about the idea of an evil Goku. And this is something I've gone on record so many times. Like, I don't want that. First of all, we've had that. You mentioned Tullus already. We've already had the, hey guys, what if evil? So, that wasn't going to do it for me. And I went into this arc, I remember saying, I'm not excited for that concept, but if anyone's gonna pull it off, it's probably going to be Toriyama, and I feel like that's maybe giving him too much credit, but I feel like he kind of pulled it off for me, because it wasn't
actually evil Goku.
Right. It wasn't evil Goku. And it was, oh my God, I'm myself best friends. Isn't this hysterical?
That I feel like you could not have seen coming from a mile away.
Right.
And maybe that's maybe that's just not being.
So the question is Goku Black. Awesome character, right? Everyone please agree with me so we can move on.
Yeah, absolutely. I have opinions about Zamasu, but Goku Black? Oh, no, 100%. Like, he's the best part of the arc.
Well, address that a little bit then, because they are the exact same character, but they're completely different in some ways. What do you think those are, Scott?
Well, while you have Zamasu, who is he's a lot more subdued, actually. It's kind of interesting. The character of Zamasu, even in the future, he's definitely all about, like, I'm going to kill all of the humans / mortals / whatever we want to translate Ningen as. And and I want this beautiful world. But he's also weaker than Goku Black.
I feel like he wasn't as committed to the cause, if that's a weird way to describe it.
It wasn't until he got his body. He's like, now it's going to happen.
Well, you also have to, and I found that really interesting, because I feel like this is actually a character angle you can definitely explore a bit, which is that Zamasu was kind of shanghaied. Like, he comes back to Goas, and he's dead, and he's like, what the? And Black's just standing over here like, yo, I did your job for you. Let's go kill some Ninkins.
Right. And he's kind of hesitant to like, am I doing this? I guess I'm doing this because this guy over here is me and says I'm doing this. So I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, this me with even weirder hair is like, let's go. So but then you have Goku Black, who, first of all, we see him killing people. We see him destroying stuff.
Yeah.
Like, we actually get to see him like do his godly duty. And
he's just smiling the whole time. He's loving it.
Oh, yeah. No, he is into this. He's 100% about this, and it's so good to watch. And the difference I feel like between Goku Black and Zamasu is Goku Black, it seems like he's already in this. He is 100% like ready to kill people, where the other one is like, oh, I'm doing this. I'm just, I'm going to talk about myself and, be a little bit flowery, but we'll get to this. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Well, mainly because he still had to hide his agenda at that point.
Right. That's true. Yeah. So do you think he had that kind of hanging over his head? Like he's trying to hide what he's trying to do? I don't know. Because everyone's just traveling all over the place so much. It was kind of difficult. Like Toriyama said, bear with him here. It's kind of hard to keep track of whose motivations are what at which point in time.
That part wasn't the hard part for me. The hard part for me with the time travel was making sense of how in the bloody hell a ring protects you from causality.
Don't think about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the thing too, is like, I mean, okay, I also don't like to harp on these kind of things too much because
me too.
I don't know. I think that specifically the like making sense of the time travel stuff, because let's address this too. For those of you who don't know, the way that time travel works specifically in the Dragon Ball universe was, I think, very clearly like, oh, whoops, well, we're changing a lot of things in the middle of the story, so I guess it's not when you change something in the past, it automatically affects the future. It's multiverse theory. And it was turned into that in the middle of the androids arc, like when it was going on. So that in and of itself is a thing to keep in mind. But the other thing is, too, there is, and Scott, you've actually, gone into a lot more discussions of this, I think on Reddit, you were telling me, is that, if you really, really, really get like balls deep into it, the unfortunate truth is, a lot of the time travel stuff in this arc doesn't necessarily add up with how certain things affected each other and how, the order of certain events happened, etc. So I think that pours into something I'll probably get into a little bit later, but, while we're also bringing other members of Team 4-Star into this too, Takahata 101 has often talked about, I remember when the Universe 6 arc was first announced, he was like, I want evil Goku from alternate universe. I want a warlord Kakarot.
You have no idea. You have no, I think we may have talked about this on one of these once. Literally, he told me, what, and this is the most infuriating thing. Before Super started, he said, one, there's going to be multiple universes. I'm like, they definitely dropped that in the movie, so we'll probably see that. And then two, he's like, oh God, what was it? Yeah, he's like, there's going to be an evil Goku. And I'm like, no, that's dumb. And you're dumb.
Wow, 2 for 2 then.
Oh yeah, no.
So hats off to you, Taka. But also something Taka pointed out that I wanted to kind of tie into the Zamasu conversation was he's pointed out that Zamasu is very much like the most. He's the most modern anime style villain I think that Dragon Ball's had.
Yeah.
In terms of his much more like philosophical, like kind of motivation. I don't want to say it's flimsy. It was something that was making me think constantly, like, well, what is your real end game?
Oh,
Like,
I want to get into it with Scott here because we just watched.
Oh, yes, we did. This morning.
The super extra episode of your top villains.
You know what? I think my reaction to that is it's a kid's version of a very philosophical villain.
That's true.
It's like they can't go too into the weeds with that literary character that you want to see. This has to be consumed by the masses for a broad range of ages. And I'm not saying, little kids can't be smart because I think we've been proven time and again, like, no, they're actually smarter than they let on.
Yeah.
But I think for Dragon Ball purposes, we got to like take what we want from that literary trope standpoint and really scale it back.
Yeah.
Actually, what's kind of interesting, I don't know if you guys have know too much about the characters from Pokemon X and Y, but actually, Lysander, who is the main villain of that, it's Generation 6 of Pokemon, I've been following that series kind of actually in tandem with this with this whole arc in Super. And Lysander's whole kind of thing was, I care so much about the beauty and purity of this world that I would be willing to destroy it and start over anew just to preserve that beauty. And actually hearing that kind of, I guess, educated me on like, oh, okay, I think I get Zamasu a little bit more now. It's not, to me, it's not like the most amazing idea for a villain motivation, but it did at least like get me to understand a little bit more what his deal is. And I'm like, okay, so I think I kind of, and I did really like him as a character. I did really enjoy him and Goku Black kind of in tandem. I think that they were a very interesting, unique, utilization for a bad guy this time. And, they made for just purely a lot of really, really interesting entertainment. They lent themselves to a lot of really cool fight scenes, a lot of really cool, tense chases and discussions and oh God, who's going to make the first move and who's going to shoot first kind of thing. So even for that alone, they're welcome in this whole universe to me now, I would say.
I think you guys summed it up perfectly. That was going to be my total rebuttal against Scott, was that it's a kids show. So Meri.
Oh, sorry, I stole your thunder.
You nailed it. That was perfect.
Hey, we must be married or something if we thought the same way.
Yeah. I think the thing we have to remember is that we're all adults and we're the ones that are online talking about it, but the audience for this show, even though it is an international property, is primarily young Japanese boys. What they're trying to do is indoctrinate that audience into Dragon Ball fandom, and they've initially come in now through Dragon Ball Heroes, and now they're being pushed over to Super and back around again. So yeah, that is the audience they're going after. And while we're adults and we continue to grow with the series, and I think it would be cool to have that really deep, complex villain with incredibly nuanced motivations.
You think this is as deep as it gets?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get much more than this, because at the end of the day, first of all, Toriyama can't write that. and second, that's going to alienate the audience that they're trying to get now to sell nostalgia to in 10 years.
Well, ultimately, and by the way, for those of you who haven't seen the Super special that we did for DBcember, ultimately my opinion was to just truncate it. Well, yes, I personally kind of felt like they went for with a very complex character angle, at least one that usually needs a lot of subtlety and complexity to actually explore and properly execute. But I agree, it is a kid's show, but to that extent, while I definitely would not have minded them keeping that motivation, I just didn't feel like they had enough fun with Zamas.
You know what? I don't disagree with that.
With Black?
I wanted more.
Yeah, I agree with everyone. Don't get me wrong. I disagree and agree with all of us at the same time somehow.
Because that's my thing. For me, it's either you go all the way, make him this complex, damaged, psychotic villain, or you gotta have more fun with him. Because the entire concept of these filthy mortals, I'll have to destroy them all. They only play with it like once or twice when he gets cut off when he's doing or people are ignoring him when he's doing one of his little speeches.
I think that one scene was enough to sell it for me. It was like, I just like hearing myself talk. I know a lot of people had problems with that as just being like a too self-aware thing. I thought it was brilliant, and I think that was enough for me.
That scene, and that wasn't necessarily enough for me, just because Zemas is around for a while, and he becomes kind of insufferable when he's given this complex motive, and then not enough time to either like have it be lampshaded or played with, or actually played completely straight. So it just kind of comes off this halfway point of he kind of just feels underdeveloped and petulant, and you have Goku Black over here who's a million times cooler, and then they fuse and it becomes a Final Fantasy villain.
So infuriating what if question then. Would this arc have benefited from being 1 or 2 episodes longer to explore him, or made better use of the time that it had?
Oh,
I think so. And Scott, I got so angry listening to one of your most recent Team 4-Star podcast episodes because you stole the thing that I was going to come in on a horse and be like, I have the best point to make.
Oh no, what's that?
Scott stole it. And that was we went back to the future one too many times. Totally agree with you.
Yeah, now that you put that into words, yes, that actually pinpoints probably my greatest beef with this arc is like, why did you go there like a gazillion times?
Yeah, it really felt like I don't quite know. I think it was the second time. I don't quite know what we accomplished doing that.
More fight scenes?
More fight scenes, but then we still spent all that time again, like, well, I guess we'll sit over here and drink tea, and I guess we'll sit over here and prepare. Like, it didn't do anything for moving the story ahead. And I think that nails it there. I think if we just cut out that part and just kind of took the surrounding parts and made them work together a little bit better, if we cut this down from the 2021 episodes to whatever that would have been there, I think that was the right length.
Wait, so you're saying make it shorter?
I think make it shorter. I didn't necessarily want more with the characters, because if we're not...
Oh, I did.
I feel like if we're not going to do more with the characters, for all the reasons we said, primarily about it being a kid's show, let's cut down some of that needless not moving the story forward stuff, and let's just make it really concise.
I think the length was fine. I just would have wanted better utilization of that time.
No, I agree. And you know what? It really is such a shame, too, because the prospect of them going back and forth between the timelines, I thought was a really, really interesting, device for the story. I remember actually another shout out, my friend Mike Lucas. He's been following the Toyotaro manga version of Dragon Ball Super, and he just started finally watching Super because of it being on Crunchyroll. So he just watched through this arc that we're talking about now, and he was also following the manga, and he was saying, there's a part of me that actually kind of likes the manga version better because it seems like they're really like abridging, a lot of things together. Mm-hmm. And I actually haven't fully caught up on it as of late, which also, a little shout out as well, I think Viz has been legally releasing a lot of chapters of it now over here.
Yeah, 14 is out as we're recording, and by the time this comes out, probably 15, maybe even 16 will be out. Well, let's stop real briefly to talk about the manga. I don't want to get too much into manga versus TV comparisons.
But it's better.
Right.
Well, Scott,
you heard it here first, people.
Especially because as we're recording, chapter 19 is just coming out and it's not done yet. But I feel like one of the biggest differences, it was such a strange difference too, was in the TV series, Trunks is like, oh yeah, I received instruction from Kaioshin on how to defeat Babidi Dabra and Boo, versus the manga where we see that entire story play out. And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, man, neither of these mediums stand alone as the all-encompassing telling of this story.
But isn't that kind of cool, though?
I think
they complement each other.
That's their point.
Also, I'm putting a marketing hat here. It's marketing too. Go out and buy both, kids.
You need to have red and blue, and maybe even green to get the full story here.
Green is the Future Trunks movie that they released in 2017.
Yes.
Oh my God. Considering that little thing that for those of you who don't know, there was a version of the Resurrection F movie that aired on Japanese television.
With the pointless
year.
extra. I'm reading the book, and I guess I'll go fight now.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because it basically adds a little scene in the beginning of the blue-haired super version of Trunks in a what looks like a destroyed house, reading a book about the legend of Goku and how he defeated Frieza and etc. And it's a bunch of reanimated scenes from their greatest fights and everything. And then he goes off somewhere, and I'm like, are you saying you're gonna do a movie based on this arc at some point or something? Like, what is going on with this? I don't know.
By the way, oh my god, those scenes are so beautifully animated. My god.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Of course,
but yeah,
of course.
you know what? I don't think they're ever actually going to do the movie. I mean, they might. I mean, God, who knows what Toei Animation's thinking? It's very possible that we'll get a Goku Black movie. I'll watch it. I'll probably love it, especially if they rewrite the ending. But we'll get into that I'm sure we'll get to that.
I want to talk about, I feel like you guys we're like dropping these hints along the way, and I want to come back to all these little hints that we do drop. Some of you sound like you are a little put off by the lack of explanation for certain things. Most notably, Trunks' new transformation that we get, which doesn't have a name, doesn't have an explanation. I've gone on record so much lately. I did an entire solo podcast episode, like a really heartfelt thing. Like I really feel like the strength debate culture is completely cancerous to Dragon Ball fandom right now. And this is the kind of thing that fed into that so much, where you have people like, I need an explanation, I need a name, and I need production history to justify this thing's existence. And I'm like, nope, I'm good.
Here's my thing with that. I completely agree with you. When I see, when I first saw and heard about Super Saiyan Rose / Rose, whatever the fuck, I don't care, the pink one, when I first saw that, and it was revealed, I think it's some concept art or something before it even...
Yeah, it was some artwork cards, that kind of got out on Amazon Japan before it was supposed to be revealed.
My opinion when I saw it then was the same as when it was used in the show, and it's the same thing as Super Saiyan, whatever the fuck that was that Trunks had with the Super Saiyan sword, whatever. It's the same thing that I think about when I saw, when I first heard about the God form and when I saw the blue form. It's what it really is, and again, this goes back to my thing about there's an answer in and out of universe. What it really is excuse for new merchandise and DLC in video games, new forms and things like that, and et cetera. It's not really like... Sure, the God forms, I think, had a perfectly fair explanation for what they were, and I'm like, okay, I accept that, especially the red God form, I think, worked perfectly fine for what it was. And you know what? To some extent, I do understand why people are like, well, what is this? Like, sure, not so much like the strength of it, but it's like, well, where did this come from? Why? Like, can we at least get something as to why? Can
I touch in on a little bit? Because I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who's ultimately like, I'm a little uncomfortable with the way that this was introduced. With Super Saiyan Rose, it's making a lot more sense now that the manga and like production notes are coming out implying that there was always supposed to be at least a regular Super Saiyan Goku Black. The way in which Super Saiyan Rose was introduced was a little weird. Not that it was a bad transformation, and it makes sense that it's just, it's his version of Super Saiyan Blue, because he's a god, and Zamasu, whatever. I was able to accept that well enough. But when it came to Trunks' transformation, especially after reading the manga, which basically tells you what it is, or at least gives you a hint much earlier on, in the show itself, it is never explained what in the world he's doing or how he's achieving this power. And it's not necessarily that I need an explanation because I can't make sense of it on my own or I can't just let it be. But there are so many times within the series where something happens, where a transformation happens, and then at least someone like it's a monument. It's like someone's like, "Wow, that's a new transformation. What is that?" There's a mystery that
you feel like no one commented in universe enough on Trunks to justify it.
I feel like it just kind of happens, and everyone's like, "Well, we're just accepting that freaking Trunks over here with not even Super Saiyan 3 is apparently fighting Goku Black and holding his own."
I'm coming around to that.
I know the strength debates, you don't appreciate that, but I need consistency for the stakes to matter.
Can I throw in just devil's advocate?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do they think that we as an audience are supposed to know what it is based on what we know about the universe?
Maybe.
I mean,
like, we see things like the lightning. So
lightning and the blue.
Are they hoping that we put two and two together And then they say, okay, well, we don't need to say what it is because the audience has seen bits and pieces of these before. You should be able to figure out what it is.
Yeah,
even though
I
you
think
can't put a name to it.
That comes back around to, like you were saying, well, kids are smart, aren't they? You can deal with it. Do we need to hand an explanation to you on a silver platter? I feel like you don't really need to. Scott, I want to go back to what you were saying about the folks acknowledging it in universe, because where I was going to go back to, I've told this story a few different places, and I know the Kanzenshuu audience knows this well. Something we love to bring up as an example is when Gohan transforms after 16's head is crushed. That was not named for a long time. That did not have a name until Goku goes up against Boo and says, I guess you call this Super Saiyan 2.
Oh, yeah.
So and then he goes up to Super Saiyan 3 and names it 3 there. That entire time, that form existed without a name, except for one little footnote in the back of a thing that named it Super Saiyan Grade 4 to go along with other stuff, but ignoring that. So I feel like this could have been another example like that of, look, characters are allowed to do things, gain new power, gain new transformations. And do you need to name it for it to be valid?
No.
But I really like your point, Scott. If anyone could have just been like, oh shit, see that over there? But they didn't really do that, did they?
I know, I kind of wanted them to be more impressed.
Exactly. And it's not, I didn't need a name. I didn't need this to be like, Super Saiyan semi-god. I didn't need any of that. All I needed was somebody to be like, okay, that's something we've never seen. That's a big deal. I mean, can we all acknowledge the fact that that was a big deal? Because...
Well, especially because Trunks never... I shouldn't say never. He rarely has such raw, badass moments like that. I mean, I, as a fan, would have personally loved to see someone like Vegeta just break down either in jealousy or pride or just some kind of acknowledgement. Just be like, holy crap, boy!
He silently was the entire arc at times.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
that's true.
By the way, I love Vegeta and Trunks' relationship in this arc.
Yes.
It is good stuff.
Yeah.
But here my counter argument to Super Saiyan 2 or Grade 4 or whatever,
Or 5, sorry,
5,
whatever it was.
oh my god, the grades. My counter argument to that is the entire arc was talking about that.
I know, and that's where I was going to go back to. Like, I say this, but at the same time, I acknowledge, just like the first Super Saiyan transformation, the entire time they had been leading up to something. And again, in the Cell arc, the entire time, Goku's been telling us, look, he's going to do something. Any time now, he's got, he's got, oh shit.
Yeah, that's the big discernible difference is so the original first Super Saiyan form and then what was later known as 2. And also I think even the God form, those three Super Saiyan 3 wasn't so much presented in the same way, but the 1, 2 and God were presented as major plot points that were led up to for a long time.
Right.
Blue, rose, pink, and then fucking Super Saiyan Chartreuse. Let's go with that, because that's about what that. If you get that, congratulations. Those aren't presented as plot points. They just kind of happen, which is the reason why my whole kind of like, I guess justification is just like, they're just transformations, like a lot of characters in Dragon Ball just get transformations, Super Saiyan or otherwise, and they're here for merch and video games and cool fight scenes, and it's like, okay, whatever. I guess it's one of those things I'm just also not going to think about too hard, along with Trunks' blue hair,
If I might, just to kind of sum the entire thing up, I love that transformation for Trunks. I love how it happens. It is a fantastically badass moment. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I just have a problem with the way that the story handles some of these things from time to time, because I feel like they make them an afterthought. And when it comes down to strength debates, no, I hate power levels. I hate their inception. I hate the fact that they were ever made a thing. But this isn't necessarily about power levels for me. It's not about like, well, whose number is higher so I know who's stronger. That's not it. I just want to know how these things affect these characters.
See, I still disagree with it. And I don't, Scott, you and I are friends. So like, I want everyone to know that I feel comfortable talking directly with Scott this way. I feel like one of the earliest Curb blogs, I was like, man, Mike's really mean to Scott. Like, no, it's okay. We're all cool here. But and not just necessarily from you. And I'm not saying you're doing this. Let me preface all that. But I don't appreciate every criticism of strength being tracked back to battle powers. I'm not going back to the numbers every time.
But I think that's what Scott's saying.
No, I feel like we're all kind of talking in different circles around it. For me, I'm still not concerned with the consistency of these powers and being able to stack someone up against someone. Because I feel like, especially in Trunks' case, I got so much of an emotional satisfaction.
You just used the E word. I was going to say it's the emotional impact that he was moved enough to become something bigger than himself.
That justifies it for me, and I no longer care at that point of, wait a second, technically he's only had Super Saiyan 2, and does that match up against... Like, at that point, that's no longer an issue for me.
Yeah, and I can see that, and that's completely fair. I would state that there's an incongruity with the way that the story has presented these things, though, with this. But maybe that's better, maybe that's worse. Maybe it's trying to be better, and people like me just can't get over that. I mean, I completely accept that maybe my hang-up is arbitrary. It's not necessary.
Let's just shake hands and agree that we have hang-ups. That's cool.
Yeah, no. And wait, hold on. I want to be more like a proper modern Dragon Ball Z fan. God, what a fag cuck.
Oh my god. I actually wanted to toss in something. This is actually something I kind of wanted to save for towards the end of the discussion, but fuck it, because it's relevant.
Yeah, we
now.
jump all over. It's all good.
So the emotional impacts, that is something I think that's very, very, very important to talk about, and that is of great value to me, and that I think that oftentimes does get lost in those other kind of like more like balls deep lore and power level and logical kind of discussions.
Balls deep.
And I don't know. For me, okay, so Super it has kind of a tricky problem to address from the get-go. It's very difficult to have stakes in a series like this. It's very difficult to...
Are you saying because we know this is in between, and I mean, regardless of what they may do, if they overwrite the ending of Z, I mean, we don't know how they're going to do that. But as far as we know, like, everyone's alive and has families, like, everything's
not really in danger?
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it's not so much the eventual having to connect to the end of Z and whether it will or will not, lead into GT or whatever. It's actually not that. It's just the inherent problem that always happens with it's like, that has always been the case with Dragon Ball where, okay, well, where do we go from here? What's stronger? I think Scott Melzer made a joke about like, oh, he's the strongest in the galaxy. Well, what about this guy? Well, he was out of the galaxy when we said that, kind of thing. Like, you always have to come up with a greater and more, bigger threat. And I think that actually with Super, what's been setting it as very unique in this case is the fact that it hasn't always necessarily been about that every time. A lot of it, I think, and actually why I think a lot of people have been enjoying a lot of the filler, goofball episodes. Like actually, as of recent, you've done a review of just the Dr. Slump crossover episode, which was great. And if any of you guys are not avid listeners of the Kanzenshuu podcast, go check that out. I'll have a link to that somewhere. But I think a lot of people enjoy that stuff for the same reason that I think part of the reason why these last two major arcs have worked so much is not so much the stakes and not so much like the bigger picture. I think that a lot of it has to do with these moments. Stuff like you were talking about Trunks and Vegeta's dynamic throughout this entire thing which Scott, you made a whole fucking video out of, which was hilarious. And then Kid Trunks and Future Trunks, which I had always wondered what that would be like, and I was super.
I'm so
happy.
glid they went there.
Oh man, Kid Trunks
that was worth it alone.
Kid Trunks going up to Future Trunks and being like, "Dude, ball the fuck up." I was like, oh, this is so good.
More than that, the 18-inch Trunks scene.
Oh, God, yes.
Oh, my God.
Everything we needed.
When they did that, I was like, I never give the show enough credit when it comes to things like that. I always think, man, it would be cool if they addressed that. But no, they don't pay that much attention to detail. They're not going to go there. They're not going to remember that this is a thing. And they went there. I'm like, oh my God, it's so good to be alive.
And she was so dickish about it too, which I think is so in character for her. It was great.
I was just going to say, I kind of wanted more, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, that scene was so good. I was so happy.
Yeah, no, like little things like that were sprinkled throughout, and then also I guess in terms of like the more I guess the stuff that people probably put more emphasis on because now also with our internet culture you see GIFs of it flying everywhere. There were a lot of incredible fight scenes in this arc.
So good.
I think help me. There were I felt like there were at least like 4 or 5 really good, like very, very well animated, well directed fight scenes between various characters. Like
there were.
This. Oh,
Finally got their act together.
Yeah.
So it kind of started with the first episode of the arc. We got some great animation with Trunks and Goku Black. One of the, I feel like the standout, it was good for a while, but it was episode 57, the cut by Naoto Shishida. That was when everyone stood up and said, holy shit. I had to stop. Like, we don't do individual episode reviews on our podcast. I had to stop and be like, we got to talk about this scene for 20 minutes because the amount of animation condensed down into that amazing cut. That was when we had kind of like the 2-on-2 things going on, and we had the slices and the turns and the following the same cut.
That warranted a rewatch for me.
Did.
And I admittedly, this is so bad. I haven't gone back and really watched all that much, but that one, I was like, I'm going to watch that one again.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, like despite Vegito being kind of like okay, sure kind of thing. His fight, like, I forgave kind of the silliness of that just because the same thing. Animation on that one was spectacular. The animation of Chartreuse Trunks versus fucking Hulk out slime Zamasu Goku fusion, whatever the fuck that was also amazing. And you know what makes me really happy about that, I made the point about Pokemon X and Y. A lot of people have been also giving major accolades to the fight animation, a lot of the choreography and everything in certain battles that have been happening in the last couple seasons of Pokemon. And I think similarly, there's so many shows that have been happening in Japan as of late. There's been like this kind of small revolution happening in the last couple of years where you have these teams of people who are aspiring to just create amazing visual spectacles in animation again over there. And there have been so many gorgeous looking shows that come out, like, several every year that are so incredibly stand out. And I think that when you have franchises that are as big as, both Pokemon and Dragon Ball, I'm getting off of my Pokecember high, please. And you have these big companies that are like, you know what? These are, and actually, arguably, Pokemon and Dragon Ball are arguably the biggest anime franchises on planet fucking Earth. So for somebody to be like, you know what? Let's step it up. Let's really, even if it's for just this one part or for these couple parts and saving it for the right time or whatever, because obviously we still got to do, an episode every single week. That's just the way it is. I think that really shows like they're valuing just how important these franchises are, how much people care to see this stuff, and how much it pays off in terms of, that was really awesome. Because it often does when, again, you have like, oh, that was kind of weird, or that didn't make sense, or that was kind of like not totally satisfying. But then you have that in the middle, and it's just like, oh, but that was so fucking cool, I don't even care kind of thing,
I wonder how much of that was response or blowback to the poor execution of the previous arcs in Super. I mean, was it kind of like, oh, we got to make up for that because we got flack for that?
All right, so let's go back to things that we loved, because you guys mentioned Vegito. The episode.
Oh boy!
Well,
how did I not even put that together? Please go ahead.
So it's episode 66 that this fight. I just rewatched the entire fight scene again last night, and just kind of like sitting on the couch, like no one.
After how many glasses of wine, Mike?
No one noticed me. I'm having so much fun just rewinding and watching this over and over. And of course, I'm referring to our buddy AJ does this amazing animation supervisor catalog on our forum. It's just the best thing ever. So episode 66, we got to toss out some names here. Masahiro Shimanuki, Yuichi Karasawa, Naoki Tate in here as well. We had Ken Otsuka animating some stuff at the very end of the episode. These names, just like throw them all together in this episode. They're just like, go do amazing. Just make it happen. And the second half of that episode, when Vegito starts fighting, and we get the amount of animation where he like slams the head down into the ground.
It was better than movie quality.
There were so many frames of animation in that scene.
Yeah.
Like it looked like fake flash tweening, but animated well, so you knew it was real. It was the weirdest thing that I loved.
Yeah, you can tell though in those scenes, and this did not ruin it for me. Hell, it barely even detracted. Though you can tell a lot of places where they're like, okay, we're definitely not doing shadows on the ground here. We're gonna have to do some cuts here. There's a lot of stuff where you can tell where they had to cut the corners because the production schedule on this, they must have been working on that episode for at least a month longer than they had any of the episodes that were going on, like the other episodes that were being worked on at that time.
I mean,
I would love to be a fly on the wall during like the production meetings of that, just to see them how do we prioritize this? What do we care the most about?
Yeah.
What are we pulling away from, and what are we going to be focusing our efforts on?
And and Scott, again, I'm tossing over to other folks that have said really smart things. Lawrence Moscow, he did a really cool video when this happened. He was like, hey, the simulcast was announced right around this time, and the animation got really good. It really felt like a smart, exact point for them to bust out the amazing animation, the climax of the story, get the simulcast going to get as many eyes on it at that precise moment as they could. And
you want to give them that much credit?
That's the thing. Like, I feel like
happy coincidence much?
That's too smart for them. I feel like it just happened to work, and they sit back going, "Man, aren't we good?"
I personally believe, and this is conspiracy theory, Scott, over here. My personal belief is, they actually did hold off on a lot of this stuff until they'd gotten into a saga where they were like, no, this is doing really well. We put a lot of time and production and money into this. I think this is where we'll start the simulcast. Because One Piece has been going for years now. They had so much time to get that simulcast going.
Yeah, that was such a different situation. I mean, think of how many rights holders that went through in its journey to become just a regular simulcast show. Dragon Ball Super was, man, I also feel very vindicated in that everything that's happened about its international licensing and rollout has been precisely what Heath and I specifically have been saying for about a year and a half now on our podcast.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I'll say this kind of to summarize all these things. I think that through whoever and however many people, I'm very glad that there were a lot of very good decisions that were made all across the board behind the scenes on this. I think that between the simulcast, between also even, I mean, hell, getting it on TV finally now, and then like just this arc in general, the effort that went into it, a lot of the cool things that we got out of it. I think that in general, there's a lot, and maybe I don't know if it's a good or bad thing to say that it's also, this is because of looking back on the stuff that happened before this. So by comparison, like, wow, they've done a much better job now. But I think in general, I'll say I'm glad that this happened because the end result is we got a lot of really, really good material and a lot of really enjoyable stuff the last several months now.
Yeah.
As a result of it. To which, is why we're able to, because I don't know how much longer this is going to go for, but the fact that we have this much to say about this compared to the previous arc discussions in the first place, like that really says something in and of itself,
It does. We've been going for almost over an hour at this point.
Really? I feel like we have so much more.
We do.
Yeah.
Normally at that point I would say, so let's start wrapping it up. I'm saying we're just getting going here. So,
oh yeah, no, please, no, next, go for it.
So I put out the request on Twitter to get a bunch of questions, and I want to hit those up. So I feel like we have so many things to go back to and talk about. But let's go to the end of the arc, because we were talking a lot of out of universe stuff, production things for a while. Let's go back to story things, and then we'll go back to again those little minutiae things that people want to talk about. The end of this arc, again, spoilers. We're destroying this entire thing, is pretty much no one wins, and this entire thing gets erased, and Trunks' everything he fought for is ruined and gone. But I guess we'll go be happy over here. So let's talk about the various parts of this ending.
Do we have to?
Yes, we do. I'm pulling it out of you, whether you want to get into it or not. I'm really conflicted on it because part of me is loving the nope, no one wins. And that reminds me a lot of the ending of Battle of Gods, where Goku doesn't win that fight. And I feel like we're due again for everyone kind of gets put in their place and is reminded you're not the top shit here. So I kind of liked that. But at the same time, you go back to that emotional satisfaction. I didn't get it, but I also like that I didn't get that emotional satisfaction. I feel like I'm going to need to digest this ending for years before I come around on what I think about it.
I think I would have been more content if they left the ending at the first ending and then didn't tack on stuff to it.
Yeah. So just Trunks slices and he wins.
And then everyone's happy and he goes back home and bye.
I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, Trunks is going to win, and they'll use the Super Dragon Balls or the Omni King to be like, sure, you can have everything back and everything's cool now. That would have been just too rosy for me. So that's where I'm like, man, maybe it is cool that he lost everything and the point of his character is to just suck it up. I don't know.
Well, remind me of something, because I actually don't entirely remember how this turned out. So that timeline is gone completely.
Well,
and
I mean, it's tough to say because he came in, Omni King, Zeno, and something happened and shit's just gone. We don't know if it's the entire plane of existence there or if it's just that world. I mean, we're kind of really left wondering what happened there.
Well, I guess, but more specifically, where did Trunks and Mai go again? Like once they kind of settled things?
They went to another timeline where they still exist. So there's going to be duos.
That bothered me the most out of everything. And I'm pretty lax.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like logic in the show and why things should or should not be a certain way. But when I think about how Trunks operates as a character, I cannot rationalize any situation in which he'd be okay with coexisting with himself. And that also goes for this arc as a whole, with him blatantly interacting with his younger self. Like that one I kind of had to play the hat of like, okay, suspend disbelief for a little bit. He's rampantly interacting with himself. That just struck me as odd.
I thought that was totally okay. I mean, considering that Trunks has made himself pretty familiar with the theory of time travel, how he's already introduced, like he's interacted with a young version of his mother. Like I can see him be like, oh, that's like, because no matter what in like actual experience or interaction he has with young Trunks, it doesn't affect him in the future. So it's whatever.
Yeah, it doesn't affect that anymore. Sure.
He gives no more fucks.
But here's the one thing. And you're not wrong. It is such a weird thing to do, to be like, oh, don't worry. There's another universe that beer has created that you can go to. What? Wait, hold on.
Why? Like, first, obviously, you can make as many timelines as you want. We know you can make as many as you want. But I feel like it comes back to, all right, if the point of Trunks is to suffer, the other half of that point is to rebuild. And if you just bring him to another place where everything's hunky-dory, he really serves no purpose.
Mm-hmm. He'd be sitting in a corner twiddling his thumbs. Like, right. What, I need a hobby, you guys. What do I do?
Not to be that guy, but... Oh, the time travel. Which multiverse theory are you using?
Pick one and choose one.
Are there new dimensions created when you use the time machine, or are they created when you change something big from the past? Because it just doesn't make sense. Because if a new time ring is created when a new dimension or a new time stream is created, then why is there only one new one?
I'm also kind of going along with it in our buddy Jay Kerms summed this up perfectly because he's a big Doctor Who fan, and Meri and I got done rewatching or watching for the first time rather the reboot of Doctor Who beginning to current right now. We've gone through so much time stuff that right now I'm also just kind of like timey-wimey.
Timey-wimey.
Whatever.
You just got to make up your own.
Yeah.
Yep.
Shit happens and whatever. You just roll with it. Like you've done so much time manipulation at this point.
It just gets absurd.
I just kind of roll with it.
They just make up the rules as they go. And that's kind of where we landed, unfortunately.
Also, my personal opinion on the ending of this arc. I don't mind a depressing ending, but I also don't feel like that was just too much. Like, the entire planet being, like, erased. Those kids, I'm sorry. Like, the entire point of that finale was Trunks coming out on top with the help of everyone around him. And then rocks falls, everyone dies.
So maybe it's a bad ending for the Trunks arc, but it's the right beginning for the next arc.
I don't know about that, because the next arc, fights again, right? Tournament. I give no craps about this now.
Yeah, but we also know pretty much all of existence is in peril in this next arc. And again, we're spoiling things, but this has just been announced, and by the time this comes out, we'll be like a month out.
Actually, I should point out, at the time that we're recording this, we know only the most basic of details about the universal survival arc or anything, which is actually part of why I wanted to record this still in December. So that we would not be talking too much about that. Yeah.
But again, not to go too far into it, but just to set it up, now we have two Omni Kings, two Zeno, and we know what his power is like. shit's probably going to get pretty bad at some point. And that's why I say maybe this is a bad ending to Trunks, but maybe that perfectly sets up just how much trouble everyone's going to be going forward.
Well, see, okay, I'm conflicted about this too, I for different reasons though. Actually, okay, so if I'm going to be mildly presumptuous here, but bear with me. If I were in any kind of position on like, coming up with any kind of story stuff for a show like this, I feel like actually ultimately erasing Trunks' timeline is actually something I think that I would have done. I don't entirely mind the prospect of that for the same reason you were talking about, where it's like, okay, but you know what? Everybody loses and shit happens, and the reasons that this happened, etc., are kind of like the pun. Because actually, going to an earlier thing I wanted to mention too, we were talking about Zamasu. I never got to say this. So I wanted to put out the fact that something I found really interesting about Zamasu and Goku and Goku Black were the fact that we've had past villains who are obsessed with Goku in various ways, or like fixated on him and like overtaking him.
Yeah.
And Zamasu took that to a level that was incredibly interesting and really cool that I liked. But also further, Zamasu points out, Trunks, this is your fault because of, your meddling and etc. So
not just him, but Beerus and Whis are like, bitch, you done fucked up.
Yeah, it's like this is illegal, across the multiverse for a reason, and this is exactly why. So I think that in a way, hell, like we were joking about Xenoverse earlier. Oh, your punishment is you have to be a time patroller and be a derp working with the adventures of Puddin' and Dumplin' or whatever. But okay, plug. But like, and that's kind of tame compared to like, no, this is your punishment. We need to bring balance to the universe. We're destroying this alternate timeline. And if anything, what I would have thought would have been kind of cool is if, okay, well, you know what? If you're going to go that route, which I'm fine with because I think that works and it does make sense, keep him in the main fucking timeline.
No, I disagree. I really feel like if you keep him around too much, again, that goes to the overusage of him. I think he's only good in short bursts.
No, I think he would be relegated to other Toriyama character status.
The same thing would happen to him, yeah. And you don't want that. So
I don't want that personally,
Yeah.
but I put on my reality hat, and it's like, no, that's what happens to anyone who's not Goku or Vegeta.
Right.
Well, here's the thing. You're not wrong about that. I think that that's exactly the reason why they didn't have him stay, is because, as we can see from the one image we have of the next arc, there's a team of 10 characters. Trunks is not one of them, neither future Trunks nor little Trunks. So I do understand that, because it probably is for that exact reason of, okay, we just did a 20 episode arc with this character. We don't want to overutilize them, and probably especially with him also being such a predominant fixture in Xenoverse. So that does make sense to me. But I do think that if they were going to be like, okay, you know what, your timeline is gone. So you the torture and what you take away from that is you have to live for the rest of your life knowing that this was partially your responsibility, and the versions of these people that you knew, including like future timeline Bulma and Yajirobe and everybody else, they are gone forever.
Oh, I hate that so much. Yajirobe lived, and he was going to be that cockroach that would just keep living, and I'm so sad to see him go.
Yeah. By the way, the fact that Yajirobe survived, and I was like, are you kidding me?
Of course he did.
That is so lame and amazing. I am so happy. Like, the fact that it's like fucking Yajirobe pulls it out at the end. I don't know if we see it in the manga, but I know like in the anime, we see a hole get blown through him. And I'm like, you managed to come back from that, you glorious fat bastard.
Part of me feels like much like the casting of Ryusei Nakawa's Frost and the Universe 6 arc. I totally feel like, we just like working with Mayumi Tanaka. Fuck it, let's just put Yajirobe in there. Yeah, he survived.
Maybe, but I also feel like she totally forgot how to play that character. It does not sound anything like he used to. So.
By the way, speaking of actors playing other characters and a lack of a character, Goten just disappears.
Oh, yes.
and I was wondering for the longest time, why is Goten Oh, right.
Oh, maybe they sent it in a boarding school.
Well,
right.
Matsuko Nozawa is how old now? And while she can destroy, like she can still like blow the house down with her performance, but the fact is they were like, okay, you have a little bit of Gohan, you have 2 Gokus, Goten, you're gone. You can't be here. Masuko Nozawa cannot do all of these characters.
I feel like a lot of people harped on a comment she made for the Arale episode where she's like, lols, man, stop giving me so, like, let me chill out for a bit. They're like, oh, you're the reason that we can't have Gohan. No, I really feel like Goten is just not an interesting character.
Goten's never been interesting to me personally.
There's nothing to him. There's nothing you can do with him. I'm sorry, Lemmy, you just got to deal with this. It's just, there's no character there, and there's almost no character to Little Trunks either. I'm sorry. Yeah, we saw some little bits of development there with him, but these kids are not interesting, and I feel like that's also why they've been so hesitant to move forward in the timeline, because then you have to age them up.
But they would have been more interesting if they were older. Make them prepubescent, horny little bastards. Well, that would be amazing.
That was them in GT.
Well, yeah, but
Goten at least.
Well, like pre G, kind of on the cusp of before the way that they were in Z. Like, yeah, I think actually, yeah, Goten being kind of like gal crazy and like Trunks kind of still having that little bit of brat sensibility. I definitely think they could. Well, because the fact of the matter is they're only interesting because of Gotenks. Gotenks is great. Gotenks is fucking hilarious, and I adore him.
I don't know.
He's the reason.
It reminded me of. Oh God, Meri! It's like a commentary track for the end of Wolverine and the X-Men. I think it was.
Wow, that's random. I know. Where are you going with this?
You'll see where I'm going with this. And there's a character missing, and I remember, I think it was Bobby. And in the commentary, they were like, "Man, we just forgot to draw him in that final scene there." And I feel like this is them with Goten, where they're like, "Man, we just forgot to draw him for 20 episodes."
And I'm over here being like, where's Iceman? He's my favorite X-Men. Said no one else ever.
So what? And he's getting his own series soon, which I'm like, what?
What?
Why?
Bobby?
My God.
Yeah, Iceman. You know what? I think I am going to chalk this up to human error. Maybe they're just like, we forgot Goten.
I'm actually sticking by my comment. I legitimately think, and this is not a criticism of Masuko Nozawa, I legitimately think that they held back on writing another character for her because she was pushing herself on her performance. And that's not even crazy for someone younger than her.
Normally, yeah. I'm like 20% there. So I guess it's going to be as we move forward, do they integrate Goten back in any way? Even if it's, not on the team, but like on the sidelines. I guess maybe. That will give us a little more insight there.
I feel like, well, if there's some kind of survival thing happening, like Goten and Trunks are going to be around. Whether or not they're going to get to do much of any significance or whatever, most likely not, but
probably not.
Nonetheless.
Oh, hold on. We're talking about voices. Can we all bow down before the might?
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. So we're talking about Masuko Nozawa. We're also in the midst of an Escaflowne rewatch right now. So Alan is just...
He's sex on a plate.
So Miki knocks it out of the fucking park. Say what you want about his dialogue and self-centeredness and Zamasu as a character.
But you gotta somehow, say those lines and
mean it.
And not, die laughing.
He probably did in the recording room.
But it was believable enough.
Holy shit, he's so good.
When he gets angry, during his angry moments, during his, oh God, or any of his screams, I was like, holy crap, this guy he sells that character so well.
And that's what I feel like I was... cautious about going into Super, especially as we came off of Kai, when we had some recasts here and there because they didn't want to pay for
and then Ginyu is not Daisuke Namikawa, and they basically modernized a lot of them.
So I was worried going into Super of we're gonna get the younger generation of the voice actors,
but then they went with a veteran,
right? They brought Miki in. It was
admittedly, I hadn't rewatched Escaflowne in 15 years. So, this wasn't a voice that was fresh in my head.
Right. And he's done tons of other stuff since then. But yeah, to have someone of that caliber, and we've had other folks of that caliber. Again, Champa's voice actor being Kintaro from Golden Boy.
And he's so good.
We've had some amazing voice actors come in, but that's all I wanted to
I'm obsessed with Beerus, by the way.
Oh yeah.
His range is
Yamada,
off the charts.
Every time he talks, I'm just fanning myself I'll just keep talking.
You know what's funny? I was doing a stream earlier in December, and I was drawing Mew, and I realized like, oh yeah, Koichi Yamadera was Mew in fucking Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back, and I was like, wow, he's been multiple cat gods of destruction, hasn't he?
By the way, Katsuyuki Konishi was Ginyu. I'm saying that only because someone in the comments can be like, it wasn't Daisuke Namikawa, you're not a real fan.
It would be me after I went back and edited the episode.
You'd be trolling like under a different... You'd use a different username and then we look up your IP address. It's like, wait, it's the same dude.
I was actually, I know a lot of Seiyu. I'd never heard Miki before. Like, at least, not that I could have recognized.
Really?
I could not have told you who that was if I listened to him. So...
Me neither.
This was my first experience with Miki.
I mean, I just love the fact that Miki's basically made fucking Ningen into a meme.
Oh God, yes.
Overnight.
Oh, is that a thing?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You see, I'm not on the internet. I gotta go
the
see
car
this.
loser were killing Ningen.
There's compilations of Goasu going Zamos like every other second.
And a compilation of Zamos going Ningen.
That is glorious.
I'll start by Smash Mouth, except every word is Ningen.
Oh my God.
Somebody get on that shit. I know that this is more on Scott and I's side of intrigue, but I think that Zamasu is also the first character, like more so than any of the other new ones that have been introduced in Super, that I am very, very curious and interested in who's going to be playing him in the dub when they get up to that point, and maybe even later in the year for all I know.
That's a tough call.
Tall order to follow.
You gotta sell
They
it.
gotta get that casting right.
Well, I guess this is where I announce that I am playing Zamas in
Oh, you shitbag in your dream.
in my yes, absolutely.
But
in my dreams.
All right, let's refocus here. I feel like we talked about.
Oh, I'm sorry. We're having too much fun.
Yes, we are.
Yes, yeah, more or less. I don't like fun. Get out. All right, what's the next one?
Smacking
Back it
everyone
up,
on
back
the
it up.
knuckles with the yardstick here. So we talked about the beginning. We talked about the middle. We talked about the end. I said, let's not talk about the minutia. Well, let's talk about it now. I have a lot of comments here on a post I did on the Kanzenshuu Twitter account. Lots of little, like specific opinions people want on things. And I feel like we could talk for 5 hours and still not get every single last thing everyone wants to hear, but we'll try our best. I'm just going to start at the beginning here and kind of like work through a few things. Gabby wants to know Zamasu as Dragon Ball villain, overall pacing, last 2 episodes. I feel like we talked about pacing the last 2 episodes. We talked about Zamasu as a villain, but let's put him in context as a Dragon Ball villain. I feel like we talked about it a little bit, where he's got this god complex.
He's very original.
A little more.
He's different. He's very different from
Right,
what
and I
we've
think
seen.
we all wanted that, right? Like, we didn't want Champa just being another god of destruction that was going to be a villain.
100%. I liked the concept for Zamas's character. I just feel like they went too middle. Like, I feel like they didn't go one direction or the other, and he suffered for it.
Like, put a stake in the ground and decide, what are you going to do with this guy?
Yeah, I think, at the very minimum, I just like the fact that it was a very unique, like overarching adversary, which is kind of why, like, I jokingly more refer to this as like the Goku Black arc or the Zamasu arc or whatever, because I think that because he really was kind of like the glue that was binding everything together. And I liked that he was so much at the forefront, and that he was such a unique new kind of thing, not just for Super, but for Dragon Ball in general.
Yeah.
So flaws included, I'm glad that they told a story with him, and we had him for these 20 episodes, certainly.
Here's kind of an existential question from Sharonvir. Is Dragon Ball Super better off after the Future Trunks arc, or worse?
I would say better. Even with
I
that
would
ending,
agree.
I would say that, oh man, is it way better now that it's actually done some daring things, had some amazing fight scenes. Sumitomo's score finally resembles something of quality.
All right, so we had lots of questions about that. Sumitomo's score. Man.
It's fine. It's whatever, it's nothing to write home about.
There are some pieces that I absolutely adored.
Okay, but what are they? Can you hum them for me right now?
Nope.
See, exactly. And that's how I feel about this. Sumitomo's score in general, other than... Thank you.
I mean, my favorite tracks that he's done were actually, which is funny because in some of the post filler episodes after this arc was over, like with the baseball one, which was hysterical, and the Dr. Slump one, there have been actually a lot more, I think, reuses of music that he did for the Majin Buu Kai.
There have been a
episodes.
couple of those, yeah,
And my favorite tracks of his are from that, and I don't think that they've used them in a long time.
which is crazy.
So.
You're a weird person, and your opinions are now disregarded entirely. Chris. I feel like the only music I ever remember, and it makes sense because I have more familiarity with it just by virtue of it being older, is the Battle of Gods score. I feel like I get that do 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 piece of music from Battle of Gods where everyone's kind of like happy at the party, and I recognize that. But from this arc in particular, people are always like, "Oh man, I love Goku Black's theme." Like, do you really? Because I can't place it. I have no idea what it sounds like. And I've watched a lot of this stuff over and over and over. I have no idea what that sounds like.
Yeah, that is 100% true. Well, I can say, like, I love that, like, the sound of that. When you go out of it, like, when you're talking about it from just a pure, can you remember the song? Can you hum it? It's not that catchy. While it works really well in context with the visuals, it's a weak composition altogether. Yeah, it's true.
And I guess,
maybe it's just more of a matter of it sucked less than previous.
Yeah, I guess it's.
Yeah, it's inoffensive. It's just there. I will give some credit. I did like not so much the music itself, but just the change in the next episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
See, I remember that one.
That was cool.
concur.
And now we're back to the standard one. Actually, I don't know if there is a question about this, but while we're just on the topic of music, I'll bring up the couple new ending songs that we had. As I'm sure you guys could probably tell from my brain tumor-inducing intro, I have the weirdest, like, love-hate relationship with Yoka Yoka Dance. I love every part. It's so fucking catchy, except for the Yoka 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 shit makes me like feel like I'm embarrassed to watch the show. That's the one part of it that I hate.
Kind of makes you feel like slightly like a pedophile. Like I feel a little dirty listening to this song right now. But damn it, it's stuck in my head.
When did I turn on PBS or some shit? Am I watching Blue's Clues? What's happening? But and then also the what is the spice, like the new one that we have?
Fried rice music,
right
yeah.
I love that ending. I cannot tell you how much I love that ending. For a while there, what was it? Forever Dreaming? Oh God, what was the
Yeah.
Forever Dreaming for the longest time was one of my favorite songs in Dragon Ball, period. I loved that song.
I can see that, yeah.
But no. Chauhan music is, I don't know what it is. It's so fun. It's so nonsensical. Those little, like, what would you call them? Not chants, like they
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The
the little accents of Chinese inspired language and music. I felt like, oh my God, this feels like an actual Dragon Ball song.
It does.
And
I agree.
I fell in love instantly.
I feel like a lot of people have said this, but maybe that song could have been better used elsewhere in Dragon Ball Super as opposed to the dark, angsty Future Trunks arc.
You know, that is...
But I'll take it.
It is sort of interesting because some of the, like, both Yoka Yoka Dance and Chauhan music were kind of like atonal to that arc.
They were, yeah.
But then again, like,
You could say that for Zenkai Power about the entire first portion. So.
Oh yeah, well that's what I was going to say. Was I forget if it was either if Mike or Scott. One of you guys said this to me. I think like off recording, but how this one reminded you of like a new age Zenkai Power-esque kind of
Agreed,
song.
100. And which is kind of good and bad, because good where I have a lot of nostalgia for Zenkai Power. Bad in that I actually don't like Zenkai Power all that much.
I agree.
It's come around so much that you don't like it anymore. All right, we have so many comments. Let's keep going. I have to say this, Stacy Sailor Spaz. Why every version of Zamasu is amazing? Heart, fangirl, trash speaking, please ignore.
When we were talking about Mickey earlier, I was going to be like, shout out to Sailor Spaz, but we went out. I'm glad we got that in there.
Yeah, no matter what our criticisms of Zamas are, Mickey just knocked that out of the park. So hey, you know, like, you got that no matter what.
All right, Run Jose maybe here. Character development, especially the Vegeta and Trunks family connection, even development of present Trunks. He got bits here and there. Do you feel like we got character development in this arc?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
if nothing else.
Well, if not development in process, at least development, like, we see a huge difference between this Vegeta and the previous Vegeta that met future Trunks. The way that he interacts with him, the way that he interacts in the future. This is, like, we're seeing the Vegeta because coming up, by the time this goes live, our DB December will have finished. We talk a lot about Vegeta's character because he places in the top 5. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, do you feel like, maybe my reading is off here, but I feel like Vegeta finally recognizes that Trunks can take care of himself?
I feel like in this arc, as opposed to in Z, Vegeta wants Trunks to succeed, whereas in Z, he was like, I'm skeptical.
Yeah.
I don't really know your deal. Like, I don't want to see you fail.
And I don't want you overtaking me.
Yeah.
As I was saying, Vegeta doesn't not become a good person until the end of Buu. That is just a fact. And while he does things that are heroic, he does them for his own selfish reasons throughout the entire show until Buu. So it's really like the best part about Super in these movies is we get to actually see a good guy Vegeta. He's still a dick ass, but he's being a good guy. And this whole interaction he's got with Trunks, the fact that he's like, oh my god, the scene where he grabs him and is like, are you fucking kidding me with the self-pity, help me daddy bullshit? You are my son. Stand the fuck up and actually be the man that we all know you can. You don't come to us in fucking Kakarot to solve your problems. You do it yourself. And that is so good because I can just see, like, previously he would have written him off or insulted him. He would have been angry with Vegeta, but here he's disappointed and he wants to see his son do better. And it's oh god, and how happy when he sees Mai, he's like, oh damn, my son went and got himself like a pretty young girl who can stand up for herself. This is good to see.
He's happy with himself.
He's finally proud.
You know, Scott, you made me think of something. I never thought about this before. So regarding the relationship between Vegeta and Trunks in general, in the Android Cell, like, massive arc from the original series, right? I feel like a lot of the development and their relationship was a lot of, like, subtext, a lot of, like, off-screen and like, implied, very subtle.
Oh, yeah, like their whole training in the Room of Spirit and Time.
Yeah.
We didn't really see. I mean, we got filler in the anime, but yeah.
Yeah. And even, like, their goodbye is just, Vegeta gives the peace sign and he's off, and that's their last interaction, in that original material as it was until now. And in a way, it was interesting because, like Kid Trunks was almost kind of like a very interesting continuation of the development between them because, he goes on to have this kind of loving relationship with his son, and they have this, like, cute kind of like, all right, if you can hit me, I'll take you to the park, kiddo, kind of thing. And it's like, oh, like, I can tell he is in his own Vegeta kind of way trying to be a good dad, and and then the little interaction they have before he sacrifices himself for Buu. And but so it worked for what it was, but also I think it's interesting because in a way they were continuing the rest of that very subtle and practically unspoken development between future Trunks and Vegeta in this arc. They were like, okay, we could use this to kind of, expand further upon that. And especially, it's really interesting because the whole dynamic of, crap, I have to go back to this timeline and ask for help again. When, one of the big kind of amazing points at the end of the Cell arc was that Trunks had, become so much better and independent and powerful, etc., that by the time he was able to come back, he was like, I'm so strong, I can fucking tear house with future 17 and 18 in the future Cell before he gets to do anything, and I've saved my own world, and I'm great. And the fact that not only Vegeta is the one who has to, remind him, like, you are capable of this, you are better than this, for Christ's sake, but also what I mentioned before, where after that, when Kid Trunks is the one to tell him that, it's like, you're me. You're so much bigger and stronger and older and cooler than me. And this girl that I have a crush on is also fawning the fuck all over you all the time. For Christ's sake, like, get your shit together and do what you gotta do. And then that ultimately is what pushes him to, when push comes to shove, he does it. And if anything, I think that now that we're thinking about it, at least for me, I think that might be the biggest point of satisfaction with this entire arc was the development of the continuation of that development with Trunks and Vegeta, and also just within himself. including this other version of himself.
Yeah, agreed.
So.
Even me over here, who is like, Trunks was a bit of a Gary Stu this arc. Yeah, no, I'm wholeheartedly happy with the development he actually got.
All right, I think that sums up that question. So next question.
Sweet.
Jugulator wants to know, do you think we needed 2 Zamasu, or do you think Goku Black would have been fine? Man, I really think you needed both of them, because if this was just evil Goku, even if it was evil Goku but still Zamasu who stole his body, I really feel like you needed the dynamic between the two. Like we were talking about earlier, the slight differences between the two characters helped define them better, and I don't think you get that definition
if we wouldn't get to see them hugging each other.
Right, you needed that hug.
Okay, quick point on that. Does everyone agree that was intentionally awkward?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think actually having again, because it was different, it was unique, it was really, really interesting and made for a lot of interesting scenes. Actually, something we didn't mention that I want to give special mention to, and this is because of the whole double Zamasu and Goku Black thing. The scene of in one of the many alternate timelines that came up where the body switch happened. And by the way, it was the first time that when a character's body switched, their voices are also within that, that same thing. Like, when Goku becomes Zamasu after the body switch, he has Shinichiro Miki speaking like as if he were Goku.
Right.
Which is interesting.
It's great.
And this terrifying scene of Goku murdering Chi-Chi and Goten, and it's like, oh my God, like that was like terrifying and like impactful and creepy, and it really makes you hate them in a way that I think was very, very effective. And I think that it lent itself to that whole deal of having this boss be a multi-threat. We've never had something like that before. We've had multiple bad guys around the same time. We've had Babidi and Boo, we've had Frieza and all of his henchmen, and we've had multiple androids. But we've never had 2 of the same villain at the same time, like there, and used in such a cool fucking way. Like I think that's only been allocated to like Xenoverse and like video game type shit or whatever when you have doubles. But so no, I think that they were made all the more interesting, especially with all the twists and turns and unexpected shit that happened. I think having the both of them together, and then also leading up to, which I didn't even think, they could fuse, of course, and we get a cool new like design and a form out of that. Like that was cool too. So
Wow, I'm surprised that that at any point, like the moment Zamasu showed up, like it was both Black and Zamasu showed up, I was like, oh, they're gonna fuse. I mean, I'm like, they have the earrings. That's going to happen.
I mean, from the key visual very beginning, the focus was on the Potara earring there. I mean, it was kind of telegraphed.
Yeah, I mean, and when Kaioshin and Galas show up, it's like, oh, and there's Vegito. Everyone was like, okay, is it going to be dance or is it going to be earrings? Okay, it's going to be earrings. Which I was sad about, because I'm like, you already got Vegito. Yeah. Give us Gogeta. That's what I want. What I need.
Yeah, but Vegito's more
yeah,
fun
I mean, there's well, we don't know, because all we ever seen of Gogeta was in GT and the movie. I don't think we've ever seen like just regular Gogeta, not whatever. It doesn't matter.
Well, they wrote Gogeta like Vegito in GT anyway, like the more kind of fun, cocky personality, and Gogeta's just like, I'm gonna kill you.
Saying, we have a way of fusion that they've never done before properly in the show, like an actual series. I just like to see that, but.
It was always going to be earrings. We knew that.
You know what? I think the reason that I didn't see it coming is because I was so distracted. They totally got me. I was so distracted by the Potara being talked about with like the Kaioshin Supreme Kai ranking system. I was like not thinking about them being utilized for fusion.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just didn't have that thought. And then it's like, so it was still surprising for me. And I was like, cool.
That's
hooray.
fair, but
Anyway,
it was such a Chekhov's gun. But my point about Zamasu and Goku Black is that I totally agree with Mike that yes, these characters being it was really appropriate to have both Black and Zamasu to kind of get a full picture of their intentions, their goals, and not to mention a villainous duo. Oh man, all about that. Like I don't no more like we talked about the androids in December. Like, yeah, it is so nice to see a group. Because a dynamic that can play off them.
And that gave us such amazing group battles in the show too. Like that episode 57 I was talking about earlier, that gave us, it felt like those movie moments where you have everyone teaming off to fight each other. We wouldn't get that. We know they're not going to all team up together. That was the whole point we've been told about Goku and Vegeta, is that they're not going to fight together. So being forced to split up and fight different opponents, man, I needed that.
There is one thing and I don't like doing this much in these conversations because I feel like it's pointless. But there's the one way I kind of wish they had taken Zamasu character, if they were going to have him there with Black, was go a little bit further with the angle of he's not as in this. I think it would have made for a much more complex character where Goku Black was just selling it all on the cool factor. Zamasu not going all the way, I think would have been made much better by him being a little bit more like, he's never killed anybody. I would have loved the idea of when push came to shove, he was unable to do the job, and that's when Black was like, well then fuck it, and then just puts the earring on the other ear and then forces the matter.
Oh, I can see that.
But again, I don't like to go too much into I think they should have done it this way.
I could have written the better version of the story.
But
Why do we put voices on that? Why can't it just be like, I would have written a better version of this story? I don't know.
Because
you
we want to emphasize,
put a voice on that.
Yeah, I did.
I think it's good to emphasize that while we do have ideas of how it could have gone better, we're not the writers for this show, and we'll never be. So
no, we just get to comment on it.
That's what I think. If Dragon Ball Super were dubbed like 15 years ago, that's what Zamasu would have sounded like. Well, I think that this the world should be without humans, because if I were running it, it would be better. So I'll just get rid of them and I'll just do it my way. There you go. Anyway.
My name is Zamos, and I'm going to destroy all humans.
Banned. We had so many questions. I feel like a lot of them asked questions or asked what we've already talked about. I feel like this is maybe a good way to start wrapping things up then, because it's about the end of the series or of the arc and looking ahead. This is from Defrost. How Zeno is shaping up to be a deranged sociopath mass murder machine, and whether they have to bring in another deity due to it.
I don't think we're going to get anyone above Zeno or the Omni King.
That would be stretching it.
Well, we have in the promotional poster, we have the Great Priest in the center, but that's also exactly the same as how we had Whis kind of in the center of the Battle of Gods poster. And maybe he is stronger than I don't know, but this is again speculation. I don't want to get too much into it, but Zeno as a character, the Omni King here, like we got him introduced in the Universe 6-7 tournament arc. We got him a little bit in the middle here looking for a friend. Now he's friends with himself, and he may have destroyed a significant portion of existence somewhere. This is gonna be a main factor moving forward. And how do we feel about this character here?
One of the reasons that I like Beerus so much is the fact that he's always been that wild card, and he's like, I could destroy something in an instant if I feel like it, if I feel that it is necessary, or if I want to. Zeno, and the fact that like he and Champa fear him so much, I think it's interesting, and it's a cool idea that they made Zeno this kind of very childlike, and not just because of the Togepi voice actress, but this very like Pokemon cutesy kind of iconic looking godly figure. And the fact that he's even more of a wild card in these very kind of arbitrary decisions and things. I think the fact that he's even more unpredictable than Beerus was. Beerus has now become a little bit more jokey and predictable in some ways.
Beerus has become domesticated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you give him some fucking cup ramen and a litter box, and he's fine. Call it a day. Zeno, we have no idea, because much like babies who are unpredictable and also psychotic, who the fuck knows what'll happen. So I'll say that with the little minor tastes that we've had of him so far, in both the end of the last arc and his little bit of involvement with this one, I'm interested and excited to see what else that they do with them, with actually both of them, I should say, in this next arc. I'm open and looking forward to how he's going to be, playing, I guess, if not the antagonistic role, something equivalent to it, even if he's not evil, much like how Beerus was.
I see the Omni King. The moment he was introduced, I'm like, yes, that is it. That is the main, like, he is at the top of all existence, and that is amazing. I loved Omni King from the very beginning. So actually, the funny thing is, Kieran and I, Lord Moonstone, differ on that opinion, which I think is really interesting, because he and I usually don't differ on these sorts of things. So I love Omni King because
Wait, Kieran doesn't like him?
yeah.
All right, Kieran, you cannot come on and do the Finals Universe 2 review. That's it. I gotta find someone else.
I think ultimately his actual biggest problem is how the Omni King was involved in this arc, though, perhaps.
Okay.
Because
he was always the final resort. We saw, again, I used the word telegraphed earlier. We saw this coming.
I know, but that kind of hurt it for me. Like, the fact that they telegraphed it so much was like, all right, when's it going to come into play? And the way that he comes into play, again, don't like that ending. So,
Well, let's talk about this a little bit. Again, the minutia, but I was really hoping, and this is again I would have written it this way. I was really hoping that there would be a single Zeno for all of time in existence.
Agreed.
And the fact that there were two here, I don't know how I feel about that.
How are they going to write themselves out of that one?
yeah. There being two of them. That's crazy. I mean, there has to be, if there's something called the burden of choice. When you have so many different choices and so much that you can do, then it just becomes crippling. The idea that you could have two Zen, like, it's absurd. The absurdity just kind of like, wow, you have two Omni Kings? After everything that you've shown us that they can do, there's two of them now?
Well, because when you think about it too, because then that implies like, oh, well then I guess if there's a that timeline has its own Zeno, then that means that timeline has its own like alternate versions of all of the other universes and like all of these other characters, including another Zamasu and a Goasu, which also provides
which we know
complications.
there are because of.
I just had like the most batshit crazy conspiracy theory.
Okay.
So this can't end well. So one of these universes ends and the universe that we're stuck with becomes GT. OMG.
We've all been saying that for a while.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, damn it. See, this is what I get for not being in the know.
No. Well, it's a general thought that some people are not sure, like, oh, are some of the other universes that exist, are they alternate universes of Dragon Ball stuff, which I doubt. I think that they're probably all going to be different from the fact that, like, if Universe 6 is the neighboring one, and it doesn't have straight up, like, Frost is like an equivalent of Frieza, but he isn't literally Frieza, then I don't think it would make sense for any of the other ones to be like, oh, this is the GT universe, this is the Xenoverse universe, this is the whatever, et cetera. They're
Right, but from everything they've shown us, that doesn't stop the 23rd removed timeline in Universe 7 from being the GT timeline. Like, we've set up so many variations now that I feel like, how far do we escalate this? Because you could always say this going forward, like, how do we get more than the devil himself? Oh, I guess we get aliens. How do we get more than alien? We get the strongest alien. How do we get more than aliens? We get a bioengineered crazy thing. How do we get more than that? We get a demonic creation. How do we get more than that? We get gods. So it's always escalating higher and higher. But how do you escalate higher than multiple versions of the highest escalation? Like, I'm starting to not buy it anymore.
Yeah, no,
By
the way, one thing I wanted to touch on earlier, before we got too much into the Omni King, since we are talking about the gods and we were talking about Beerus. Okay, so I love Beerus. Battle of Gods is my favorite Dragon Ball movie.
I see where you go. You like Battle of Gods, Beerus.
The Super Beerus has been an up and down character for me.
I agree.
Because I talked a lot about that in Super, in that they kind of took some of his playfulness away a little bit, and they've replaced it. Like, first of all, that little ennui he had with Goku never went anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like, you see him getting angry about the fact, like, oh, okay, is he upset that no one's as strong as him? But then that never comes back. And then...
Well, that's been Super's problem the entire time.
Oh, yeah. And then in this arc, okay, look, I can totally play into the idea that the gods are incompetent. Like, I'm actually okay with that. And the idea that in this arc, one of the jokes is that Beerus sucks at his job a little bit. But it's getting a little frustrating that we have this character who was so, like... One of the best parts about him was that he could be wildly immature and yet flawlessly cool at the drop of a hat, just kind of consistently being competent. It's kind of taken away from that character for me, and what we're getting out of it is just not good enough. And then you and I, Mike, will come to blows on this as much as we have to. But
okay.
the food jokes, they were really funny in Battle of Gods. They were pulled off pretty well at the beginning of Super. Getting a little old.
They are getting a little stale.
I don't know.
I wish like, if we're gonna do more food jokes, it's like, okay, how much more can you just talk about how delicious these different types of foods are?
Yeah, they need to do something different.
I guess, but I feel like maybe they did do something different. It wasn't during the arc itself. It was during the first episode after that with everyone trying to get their wish in. Like, it was the backdrop for more hilarity.
By the way, I love that episode, and I love the fact that Beerus is like, no, blows it up. Stop that. You stop that.
I'll say regarding that, I still like Beerus in terms of personality. He's still very fun and entertaining. I think my only criticism is I don't like that he is full on like just whatever when it comes to like doing his job and like bending the rules or whatever. He's just like, oh, don't do that.
That's why him being that's why I really, really didn't want him to be a main character in Super. It's like, okay, this character, really. The idea that he keeps coming back and sticking around? No, he was awful in Resurrection F. Get him out of here. He's taking away from all these other characters. Like, I hated him in Resurrection F because it's like, oh, hey, cool. There's a guy right over there who can just end this in a moment.
Just stop this.
And it's like, look, you can find a million reasons to keep these characters not involved in the situation. So stop involving them. They don't need to be here. I love Beerus, but the more we get of him, the less endearing he becomes, and the more he takes away from other characters' abilities to do things.
I agree with you, except Koichi Amadera.
Oh, yeah, Jason Douglas in the English version is killing that voice too. But I just cannot. I can't get over it.
No, I do mostly agree. I think that for like the arcs that he was around for, the Battle of Gods adaptation, obviously, and then the Universe 6 versus 7 stuff, and anything with Champa, because the two of them together are hysterical. For this arc, I think it would have been happy if Beerus took a backseat. Whis being involved, I think, and him mostly just like educating them on certain things, I think would have been acceptable. But Beerus, I think, should have just been fucking taking a nap or something during this one. But nonetheless, I still love him.
In contrast, that scene with Zamas, though.
Oh yes, yeah. You know what?
That deep
I cannot deny that.
Oh yeah, I know. Because when I saw that part, like he goes in to hit Goku, and then Beerus is just there. You don't see him move. He's
get wrecked,
and
bitch.
You fucked up. Goodbye.
I think I speak for everyone when I say, can we please get that oven mitt officially released? Like, we need this in our life.
There's some merch for your 30-plus audience.
I know.
Oh my god.
We have to start. We're going on almost 2 hours here, but Scott, you brought up something about characters and what is their relevance here and what should we be doing with them. I feel like a character that should have been important here and was introduced and then they kind of stopped using him, my boy Jocko. If we're going to talk about time manipulation being a crime, the gods have a problem with it. The Galactic Patrol has a problem with it. Why isn't he around? Like, they've dropped Jocko. I was so excited to get Jocko in here, and I was on the fence about it because how do you introduce him expecting us to all know and understand that he was a friend back then, but we've never seen him? Why didn't he ever show up before to warn anyone about anything? Why was now the right time? All right, he's here now. Let's move forward with him. But they just dropped Jocko like a bad habit. And I feel like he should have had more to say or do in this arc.
And largely that comes down to the biggest villain of Dragon Ball, the writing.
Yeah.
Currently, okay, God, I know we're going on 2 hours, but there's another thing that I really would love to bring up about
I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not going anywhere. Let's keep going.
Gohan.
Do you want to have that discussion?
Okay, Gohan is a character that I am fully willing to let have his family.
Was it that scene that wasn't in the manga where Gohan's like, please, Piccolo, help me. I want to be responsible.
Why would you have that and then instantly put him on the bus? It's like, and then Universal Survival Arc. Guess who's up front and center with everybody else?
But isn't this par for the course? Just like Toriyama is like, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in. I don't know.
That's not a good thing.
I agree it's not a good thing. But I feel like we've been through this song and dance before. And so we got to just tango here.
What they were so close to doing is that it'd be great to be if Gohan's just like, oh yeah, by the way, all those conferences I was going off to, I was actually training. Like, I don't care what they have to do. But if he comes back and impresses everybody, and is like, look, Dad, you're gonna die soon. Like, and here's the thing, I don't care which way the direction they go. I just want them to pick one and go with it.
I see that.
Yeah. I will say though, Gohan's like basically his one episode in this arc. I did really enjoy that. I do think that I think that limited. I actually, it was funny. I just saw Kyle Bear like yesterday from the time that we're recording this, and he started recording for the dub for Super. Of course, that's nothing wrong with saying that by this point. And he's still like, yeah, I hope like I get to do anything like interesting because people have been telling me he's not going to do a whole lot. And I was telling him, in terms of action, not so much, but you are going to have a lot of fun, cute, like family type stuff with like little baby Pan and Videl, and I haven't told him about I didn't think to tell him about this episode in this arc, but that is one that I think is I think that was a good limited use of Gohan for this arc. I liked what they did.
That's
with
a
that.
good, again, emotionally satisfying episode, I think, for the voice actors as well, both on Japanese and the international side of things, to be able to get inside the heads of these characters. That's got to be fun and rewarding.
And you almost feel like Trunks is acting as a proxy for the audience in that episode.
Yes, and that's what kills me all the more. It's like, oh, you literally had an episode where where Toei's looking you in the eyes and saying, "Accept this. This is it."
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right, but Scott, like we were saying, they did the exact opposite previously, where they're like, no, I'm actually going to ask for help to help you protect everyone.
Yeah.
Like, make up your mind. I agree. Like, I don't care, but I also want them to
Does
make
it
up their
matter?
mind.
That's always been Gohan's predicament.
I know,
always.
I know,
since day one.
that's
So
what I'm
why are we
saying.
surprised?
I'm not surprised. That's the problem, is that I'm
Okay.
not surprised.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's not Gohan's character. It's the writing dictating that.
Yeah.
If it were Gohan being like, I want to fight, but I have to be a family man. But I want to be there, but I have to look after my my daughter. No, it's I want to do this. I have a family, but and then I want to fight. Oh, but I have a family. It's not. It's Toei doing that. It's not Gohan, and that's the thing that's killing me. So, but we'll see. We'll see how, like, the Universal Survival arc, I think, is going to be if this is not good, then I don't know what to do.
Hey, this might be the end.
Yeah.
It might be the last thing in Super. So
I don't know.
I'm so
I mean,
skeptical.
that's speculation stuff. Let's stick to this arc itself.
No, that's fair.
We're getting a
That's
new
fair.
opening.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
By an Enka singer. I'm excited to see how this goes.
So I'm disappointed that the next arc is already a tournament.
You know,
I am like really, really bummed.
If we can have a small conversation about that coming up, this could be really cool if they don't do it in the traditional style.
I concur on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Please be different, you guys.
What I'm hoping, and this is complete fan wankery, but what I'm hoping is that it's a G Gundam style of tournament.
I'm not familiar with that. that style.
Okay.
Oh,
So-
he means the entire, all of the plane of existence is the battleground, more or less.
Yes, and basically,
no arena.
I want it to be like the Omni King sits back and goes, okay, all of you have to fight. I don't care how, I don't care where, I don't care if you kill each other, but you're all gonna have to fight.
dance puppets.
I want this to be you have these universes are your playground. Find each other and fight.
Oh, so it's a game of hide and seek in addition to fighting.
Well, here's the thing: if you don't fight, you lose, and your universe is gone.
Meets Battle Royale.
Yeah, a battle. Yes, Dragon Battle Royale.
You know, I feel like I didn't want this. I've said this. I didn't want the next arc to be the tournament because we just came off of a tournament and I wanted something in between. So what I'm kind of hoping for out of this arc, I don't know if it's going this way. I want something like the Cell arc where it started going this way and then it took a turn and went this way. And we know the external editorial factors that brought it that way. That's probably not going to be the case here because Toei probably outlined exactly what they wanted for this at this point in Super's success story. They probably know where they want to go, but I want a edge of your seat haphazard writing style. We're going this way, we're zagging, we're zigging, who knows where this is going to go.
That sounds like that would piss off fans royally based on what we saw with this previous arc.
Not me though.
I was just going to say, my fear is that we lose the great character building we saw in the last arc.
Yeah.
And we just go back to fight.
Well, yeah, but again, the good thing about that is just like if I do not believe at this point that we're going to get a traditional tournament style. If we do,
I agree.
Same.
Yeah.
I maybe they'll find a way to, I love the idea that this starts off the traditional tournament format and then goes off the rails one way or the other.
Super's going off the rails one way or the other. Yes, it is.
But you can definitely have really good character moments. As long as the story is written well enough to allow for them. Like, because while the Universe 6 tournament, definitely, like, we got to see little shades of character development, especially with Vegeta, here and there. If they just go balls to the wall and allow the characters to really take center stage, like, you could have really good moments. I mean, I'm not looking forward to a traditional tournament either. I feel like we just had one, even though the Goku Black arc was so long.
I don't think we're going to get that, because if we get that, we have hundreds of characters to deal with, and they can't possibly show that.
Exactly. Exactly. So we'll see. It's exciting, though. The stakes are really high. Like, and that's what I wanted. I was like, oh, good. They found a way to really make this, like, it really matters who wins.
Here's a couple things to consider, and actually I think that this is a good way to kind of wind things down now.
Agreed.
We have now basically, I have, at the time of recording this, I have not recorded the Pokemon Sun and Moon review curve blog, but as far as I'm concerned, we have started the year off with breaking the record of the longest curve blog ever, so thank you guys for that, first of all.
I wonder if this is my longest topic too. I'm not entarily sure. Probably.
Oh, no, I think you've done longer you might have done
longer podcasts, but longest single topic? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, this might be.
Nonetheless, a couple things to consider as we're wrapping this up and kind of transitioning into the next arc. For one thing, and again, because we're recording this on, just to blow the lid off, we're recording this on December 17th. So as of this time, we are only seeing a preview of what appears to be some kind of arc that involves Hit being sent on an assassination job after Goku.
It's not an arc. It's a 2-episode thing. But are you asking if this is going to lead into anything? I don't think so, but...
Ditto.
Well, it may not lead directly into it, but I think it's fair to say that Hit will most likely be involved in that arc.
He's been too much of a fan favorite, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that having him introduced for a little bit of this thing here, not so much as a preview for what's to come in terms of the story, but just in terms of his involvement, because I'm sure that he'll be like some kind of important fixture in that.
Oh, yeah, these episodes are definitely, hey, just so you know, remember all these characters, we're coming back. Except for Arale, because in the end, it's going to be Arale versus Zeno. Let's just make this clear right now.
Oh, of course. At 100%.
Next
and also
Death
even the
Battle.
baseball episode. Okay, you hear that, Screw Attack? Get on that shit. But yeah, I think that is something that I think will be fun to look forward to, because we'll still have a little bit of time to relax before we jump right into this. But more on point in terms of the arc itself. I think the bottom line is that more or less, and by and large, between the last two major arcs that we've been talking about for well over half a year now in these discussion curve blogs, I think that the staff have proven themselves. I really did enjoy the tournament a lot. It was fun, and we talked extensively about that if you guys haven't heard our discussion on that. And, again, even with our complaints and some of the flaws and some of the things that could have been executed better, I think overall this just made it really exciting to follow it episode to episode. I think I even said this about when I was talking about the Pokemon, X and Y anime, but it is exciting to be into on a week-to-week basis. Like, oh shit, it's the new episode. Oh, I'm so excited. Like, it feels really, really good to be invested and not dreading oh, this is probably not going to be that great, or I don't know if this is going to be all that good. And the fact that again, even with the complaints that we've had that have been totally fair and more or less justified, I think the fact that the majority takeaway from our experience with this was really cool. This is a very enjoyable experience with these characters, and I'm excited about what's going to happen next. There is a lot more to look forward to after this. And I you know what? At the end of the day, that's probably that is what the goal is in terms of doing the show and bringing this back again and etc. And you know what? They're doing their job. They're getting us, and we're getting a lot of fun out of it.
Absolutely. I mean, you go back to that opening comment from Toriyama, as transparent as this arc was from the beginning of, yo, dog, we're bringing back a fan favorite character, and aren't you excited? You know what? I actually was excited the entire time, and I did have a lot of problems with it the entire run through, but I did have fun, and I did enjoy myself, and it felt good to have fun.
And that's why in our super special, we were kind of rough on a lot of it, but at the end we're like, Super's not a bad series. It's it's just got a lot of complications.
It's so cliche, but isn't it better than the sum of its parts?
Yeah, wholeheartedly, because its highs are I am the highs in Super, and I'm gonna be that guy over here. I've enjoyed more than the Heiser GT. Just that if we had to use GT as a measuring stick, sorry, Super's already gotten a couple of better, like, fuck yeah moments out of me. So if we had to use a comparison, I'm enjoying it more. And I'm looking forward to tonight's episode. And I'm looking forward to the next arc. And I'm so happy that at the very least we're getting that, despite all the complaints I've had.
It's an exciting time to be a fan right now.
Heck yeah.
Meri, as the world's biggest Trunks fan, as far as I'm concerned, I actually am curious for your thoughts, finally, like just overall.
I am still, even though the fact that it's over, I'm still in disbelief it happened. Yeah, total pie in the sky. It would be nice to have Trunks do something again someday in a non-video game setting, and the fact that it happened, I'm still just like, pinch me. Did this really happen? It did. Oh my god, this actually happened, and it was wholly satisfying. Just like every angle that it touched on, both personality-wise, action-wise, repercussions, and the whole 9 yards. It's anything that I would bitch about at this point is just nitpicky, because I am just beside myself with how everything turned out. It was tremendous.
Well, you know what? In the wake of this, you can never forget the fact that you can slap on the PS4 and go back to Time Patrol Trunks being a nerd and being like, "Hey, I'm teaching a class." If
yes,
no pressure, whatever. He'll always be there for you.
I know.
For you and no one else.
Yep.
My God. Well, guys, thanks for breaking a record right out of the fucking gate with this new year. I owe you guys very much. This was a long time coming, and it was certainly a challenge getting everybody coordinated. But I'm very glad it was you guys in particular who are all with us. Meri, thank you for joining us for the first time.
Oh, it was a pleasure. Oh my goodness, it was like the fastest 2 hours talking about. No offense, Mike. Maybe I don't know what it is, but it went by really fast.
It's Scott.
Well, you. I see how it is. Well, you're welcome to come back if and when we eventually do a survival arc at some point down the line as well.
Yeah.
Great.
And so guys, I guess that's gonna wrap us up. So before we sign out, please, as always, plug the usual things that you got going on in your lives. Scott, by this point, it'll be after the release of the legendary Pain in Your Asshole, which we're still in the middle of working on. Talking about that, but but please, you first.
Thank you so much for having me on. Honestly, this whole subject, this whole topic was something that I love to talk about. I mean, I love to talk about Dragon Ball in general, but the Goku Black arc is such a very different arc from the rest of Dragon Ball. So to be able to deconstruct it and really go into what made it work and what made it not work, I thank you. And especially with you guys, there's nobody else I'd rather have this conversation
Shucks.
Here's $20.
You have no
Another
idea.
recommendation?
I actually got like 5.5 hours of sleep last night. I could have slept in today, but I was like, no, I want to do this. Let's go do this. So first of all, I'm really glad that I was actually cognizant enough to have these conversations and awake enough. But second, I'm really glad I got to do this. So thank you. After this, I'm going to go watch Rogue One and then cry myself to sleep as I work on Broly.
Well, I mean, of course, by this point, hopefully it is done and out, and I hope everybody loves it and enjoys it. And of course, by this point, you have also finished DBcember, which was a top 24 villains.
I still can't believe Monster Carrot took number 1.
Dude, my God. I really the spot that he deserved. Of course.
Good choice.
But usual plugs for the Team 4-Star stuff, please.
Scott's from Team 4-Star.
What?
I've done a voice or two. It's not a big deal.
Are you Torank? Are you Mirai no Torankasu?
I am Mirai Torankasu. I am Kayo-sama. I am Zabon.
Plug your goddamn channel and website and everything ever.
I am from Team 4-Star. Go to team4star.com or Team 4-Star on YouTube to watch our Dragon Ball parodies, Hellsing Ultimate parody. We also have a gaming channel called TFS Gaming, and please enjoy.
Mike and Meri. Well, I mean, actually, Meri, you have more of your own thing going on, so I'll save you for last again because you're the bomb. Michael, podcast site, please.
Yes.
I beg of you.
Kanzenshuu. We are the site. Again, I'm going on to year 19 here. We're 11 years into the podcast as well. The podcast isn't quite weekly, but for the most part, we try to stick to that weekly schedule as much as possible. Kanzenshuu is for folks Me, Mike, Heath, Julian, and Jake. You see us online. We're always talking about Dragon Ball. We love Dragon Ball. We are the source we want you to come to learn everything there is to learn about the series. We do that through news. We do that through translations. We do that through archival material. Meri, at several points during this episode, you have turned around and looked at these bookshelves, turned around and looked back at me, turned around and looked at that bookshelf, turned around and looked at me again.
Have I? Yes. I'm doing it unconsciously.
The choices in life that I have made were not the best.
I'm looking behind me.
I've made a terrible mistake.
This is impressive. Oh my God.
This is just Kanzenshuu East headquarters. This doesn't account for everything that Heath has somewhere in his house.
Midwest headquarters.
Man, we really do strive to be the best archive for Dragon Ball material. And quite honestly, I'm really egotistical about it. I think we live up to that.
Yes.
Above and beyond.
Look, and by the way, there's a guy who basically heads Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Yeah, no, there's no other Dragon Ball site on the ever that covers Dragon Ball as extensively and professionally as these guys. Like, there is, you might see some others, say an island, whatever. No, fuck them. Kanzenshuu, go there. It's the best.
Look, I'm not going to shit talk other places in particular, but I'll up talk us in particular. No, it's not just me. It's a collaborative effort among the four of us and our community, of which Chris and Scott are, of course, a part of. I really think what we have to offer is just above and beyond. People have said to me they want a Kanzenshuu. They wish there was a Kanzenshuu for insert
XYZ
series
show.
Here. Yeah, and that makes me the happiest man on the planet. I mean, also being married to Meri is great and stuff too.
Aww.
But I'll leave it there. Kanzenshuu, KANZENSHU.com. You're listening to us either on Chris or on me or somewhere, but that's our website. Yep.
There's a podcast?
That's funny.
Blah, blah.
By the way, get that wiki finished and save the rest of us.
I know, seriously.
Could you tell Toei to stop making new things? So maybe we could get back to that.
Sake.
Could you maybe make this your full-time job if there was money involved?
I swear to God. You know, have you? Okay, I'll talk about that later. But yeah, you guys are amazing.
Thank you.
Yes, please. If you're a big Dragon Ball fan and you've not paid a visit to Kanzenshuu, there is so much to love and enjoy. Not the least of which is the podcast, the press archive, which is a new feature, which is fantastic. If you love looking at old video game and anime magazines about the early days of when Dragon Ball was coming out over here, there's lyrics to every song in existence. There's an awesome, extensive home video guide. There's all sorts of cool articles. It is absolutely worth checking out if you haven't already. I plug it every time we do one of these, but I can't say enough.
All right, that's enough about me. Talk about Meri.
You will lose days of your life just like reading.
Meri, you are truly the best, the greatest man among us all.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Whoa, hold up here. I don't know that I signed up for this.
I kick your ass, Mike, regularly, like twice a week during my classes. Mike is a good champ and comes to group fitness classes that I teach on the side.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
I didn't know that. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about your aside from being a badass
Kicking
DBZ
ass.
character in real life, I guess. Tell us about Temple Trunks, the new iteration of Temple Trunks, and what you be doing these days.
Sure. I mean, things have been admittedly very quiet since the arc ended, and I'm very ashamed I have not been able to come up with any fun content. But hit up on Twitter, Temple of Trunks. You can also find similar name, I believe. Where have I got it running? What the hell is it called?
That
Tumblr.
Instagram thing?
That
Tumblr?
Instagram thing on
might be
Tumblr. There's also templeoftrunks.com, but I have zero intention of updating that thing. I want to treat it like a time capsule. I also don't remember my login, so I cannot get in there.
I'm hosting your website.
I know
that's
you
why.
host my website. That's not relevant. I want to pretend like I can't get in there ever again.
Independent women's.
Yeah, I pretty much treat my Twitter account as if I were still half my age. So if you go on it and you see the way I write, it's how did I feel when I used to
You're
update my
playing a
website? I am
character.
playing a character. It's a persona, like that really Trunks obsessed person comes out in the form of Twitter, and it's for comedy, it's for entertainment. It's probably 60% me, 40% imaginary teenage girl who's like buried somewhere.
It is kind of funny because heck, I don't have anything even quite as specific as you do, and the stuff that I have to do on social media is also kind of a character. It's interesting, isn't it?
There's just something about it.
Yeah.
I actually want to give this is going on a little bit further, but I want to give a particular shout out to you about this. On the original Temple of Trunks website, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Meri was the first person to chronicle on the internet voice samples of the Harmony Gold dub of the Dragon Ball movies from before Funimation was doing the show. And those of you who have ever seen the now 4 with 5 coming soon. Did you know voice acting trivia videos that I've done about just Dragon Ball characters at this point? All of the material about the Harmony Gold dub was more or less chronicled by Meri and the clips that she had put up. By now, people have put up the entire dubs of those on YouTube or whatever. But nonetheless,
for the time,
I learned about them. Yeah, I learned about them at the time from her. And also, it's hilarious because as you guys have talked about recently on the podcast, the Southeast Asian dub coming out on Toonami Asia around the same time as the North American version with the proper Funimation
can we
cast.
Oh my god, can we do a podcast about that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Probably at some point. Oh yeah. I demand
I love excited
to be on
Scott.
that one. Yeah. I would love to do that at some
I just
point
want to interject before Meri finishes wrapping up herself, just talking about the Harmony Gold dub and documentation of it for the time. Chris, you mentioned the press archive on Kanzenshuu. As I've been going back and transcribing old articles, I'm 99% certain that they were using your site as a reference in some of the articles they were talking about and not crediting where they got the information from.
You'll have to point me to that later.
I will.
I don't think I gave myself enough credit for that.
No, you got an honorary K-Zone subscription, didn't you, for your site?
It was for my site, but I'm talking about Harmony Gold specifically.
No, I
don't
know.
think, I can look back on it and be like, yeah, right place at the right time.
Yeah.
But I can also say, holy crap. My site was a goofy fangirl site with stupid jokes and poor grammar, but oh my God, Harmony Gold clips.
Yeah.
Damn, that's a cool thing to have left an imprint on.
It's funny too because of the fact that, as you know, it's been revealed that Bang Zoom is doing that alternate dub. So I'm pretty sure, I don't know for certain, but I'll say I would not be surprised if actors that were in the Harmony Gold dub, because that's in California, are also going to be in this, which is oh god, this is going to be some really fucking weird alternate universe.
Wouldn't that be
where
crazy?
Dragon Ball
I know.
was done in LA instead of Canada and eventually Texas, and I'm like, this is weird. So, but thank you for that, because that was a lot of help on the trivia side of things. So.
Glad.
And you know what? I will say one.
This
last
is the longest
really quick little
post-credit
thing.
I've ever seen for a podcast.
I know.
one giant
Sorry.
each other. Aren't we
I know.
great?
Forever. Good God. Well, we're past the fucking limit, so who gives a shit?
I
at this
gotta
point?
go
I'll
soon.
say that. Well,
know.
then leave. I don't even care what you do. Whatever. You don't love me anymore anyway. All you love is Broly. Fucking. Okay, so this is going to be coming out, hopefully, most likely, on Tuesday, the 3rd of January. This upcoming weekend, on the 7th of January, will be, as Chris Sabat has declared, Dragon Ball Day, as both Dragon Ball Kai, the final chapters, and Dragon Ball Super will be premiering on Toonami in North America, with the Funimation cast, as, they should be. I'm going to put forward at some point, probably after the fucking holiday mess has finished up, Mike and I want to do a podcast / Kerblot topic that will be about the core themes of Dragon Ball as a whole.
Oh, yeah, I agreed to that, didn't I?
Yeah, so we'll be doing that at some point. I've been wanting to actually pitch that to you for a while, and I thought that this would be the most appropriate time to do it. So look forward to that. It's kind of a little mini Dragon Ball week, and there's a lot of great anime shit happening. There's 1 billion anime movies in theaters right now between Sailor Moon and One Piece and Your Name and Yu-Gi-Oh! For fuck's sake, and Dragon Ball is back on TV, and God, I'm 12 again, and fuck it, whatever. That's it. Everybody, thank you for listening to all 2 hours of this. You're all lovely.
Chris, we're almost at 2.5. We'll see what it comes out to.
Jesus H. Christ. So in the comments below, as we're finally wrapping things up, leave your thoughts, hopes, dreams, aspirations, as I'm stealing from your podcast, Mike, about the Future Trunks / Goku Black / Zamasu, whatever you want to call it, these last 20 or so episodes of Dragon Ball Super. Your thoughts, your opinions, your agreements, disagreements, anything that maybe we possibly didn't cover, which would be a feat of science if we didn't already talk about it at some point. Let us know your thoughts. I'm curious to see them. Maybe Mike and myself or otherwise may or may not respond to some or check them out. Who knows? But yeah, let us know. And I guess however long from now, we will eventually see you again, hopefully at some point in 2017, depending how long it's going to be, to do the Universal Survival Dragon Ball Super arc discussion or something later on. So look forward to that. Thank you all. Please support the official release as you have the ability to in many, many, many ways. And that's it. Everybody, thank you, and we will catch you all next time.
Thanks to Chris for helping arrange it, and of course, thanks to Meri as well. Hope you enjoyed that review. Would love to get your feedback on it. Did we forget something? We probably forgot something. But when you get the four of us together, we can just chat and chat and chat. And there's probably no end to the discussion. If Scott didn't have to go, if we didn't all have to pee, we probably could have kept talking for at least another hour on the subject. So again, that was our full review of the Future Trunks arc of Dragon Ball Super. Of course, we will have a review of the Universe Survival arc when that comes to an end. Who knows how long that's going to be, but we will get to that in due time. So what is on tap for Kanzenshuu's podcast in 2017? Well, we've already recorded next week's episode. The first week of every year, or the last week of every year, we like to do our recap of the major news stories from the year and our check-in on what predictions we made last year, see how well we did, and then make new predictions for the new year. That was the plan, but unfortunately it's that time of year, the holidays, it's hard to arrange. Everyone seems to come down with something around this time of year. So that is still coming. Look for that probably mid-January. That is not an episode to miss. We love doing that every year. So our annual predictions episode is still on tap for this month in January. But next week's episode, Chris is actually coming back. He grabbed me for another topic that he wanted to do for his channel. And I thought it was an appropriate topic, something I wanted to cover here. And I love long form discussions. And it really feels like when you get us together, we just cannot shut up. So it makes sense to have a podcast episode for that as well. Next week on the show, it's just Chris and myself. We will be talking about the major themes in Dragon Ball. Spoilers, we talk a lot about how fucking arrogant the characters in the series are, how arrogance is a major theme of the series. There's some other positive stuff in there as well. That's well over an hour. I think the raw recording was like an hour and a half. So we have some great long form discussions. If that's what you like, I hope it is what you like, because that's what we enjoy. We enjoy long form discussions, long-form documentation, extreme research. Nothing is changing about Kanzenshuu in 2017. We're going to keep doing what we enjoy doing, what we hope, we think, what you tell us we do well. That's what we're going to keep doing into the new year. If you haven't already checked it out, maybe you're listening to this episode on SoundCloud, some of the other places that we put the podcast up. Earlier in December, we did have a bonus episode that did not make it to some of those other platforms, and that was on purpose, mostly for copyright reasons, but also as a little extra way to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, because if you're a subscriber to the show, it was already delivered to your feed, whether you use iTunes or maybe Google Music Play, whatever that service is. I don't remember. Sorry. There was a new episode, The Story of Battle Point Unlimited. You don't have to subscribe. You could just go to the website. Just head on over to the podcast page. You can listen right there on the page. You can download an MP3, transfer it to your phone. I encourage that. My commute's an hour each way to work. I enjoy podcasts like no one else. That's what I do. Whether it's on the road, at the gym, maybe at work, podcasts are a wonderful thing. Take them with you, whether you subscribe or just manually drag them over. So in addition to next week's episode coming your way, if you haven't also checked out The Story of Battle Point Unlimited, bonus episode in the feed on the podcast page at Kanzenshuu. That's podcast plans right now. In terms of larger website plans, normally Heath and I like to do a little state of the Kanzenshuu. Maybe we'll do that when we get to our predictions episode, talk about some of the major projects in store for the year, some of the things we would like to accomplish. Other than that, I'm going to let you go. I mean, it's been a long episode. I hope you enjoyed the topic. We had a hell of a time recording it. I had a hell of a time editing it. So for Chris, for Scott, for Meri, and then for the rest of the buds here at Kanzenshuu, for Heath, Julian, and Jake, I am Mike, sometimes VegettoEX, always Mike, www.kanzenshuu.com. That is Kanzenshuu. It has been a pleasure. Have a lovely week, lovely month, lovely year. Talk to you next time.